brutal honesty and a magnetic charisma that captivated the masses. He wasn't just selling records, he was selling a narrative, a fearless challenge to the status quo. His eyes were set on the top, and he recognized that the existing order might need a serious shakeup. 50 Cent's confidence was his deadliest weapon. He declared war on rivals, dismantled perceived enemies, and built his empire with an aggressive, no-holds-barred approach. He scoffed at those who played it safe, who prioritized corporate comfort over street authenticity. He saw himself as the true voice of the hustler, the one who navigated danger and emerged victorious. Such an attitude inevitably brought him into the orbit of anyone else claiming a king's ransom. The whispers began early. 50 Cent, hungry for respect and recognition, felt overlooked by the established elite. There was a sense that the gatekeepers, the kings who had ruled for decades, weren't ready to embrace his raw, unpolished sound. This perceived snub fueled his ambition, driving him to prove his worth through sheer dominance. His early lyrical jabs, often indirect, were designed to assert his presence and challenge the existing hierarchy. 50 Cent's business acumen was as sharp as his lyrics. He didn't just rap about money, he was making it, diversifying his empire into clothing, beverages, and media. He saw the music industry as a game of chess, and he was always thinking several moves ahead. His strategy was to control every aspect of his brand, to become untouchable. This approach mirrored, and sometimes clashed with, the blueprint laid out by other rap moguls. He was a master of the calculated slight, the underhanded compliment that was actually a diss. 50 Cent operated in the shadows, letting his actions speak louder than direct words when necessary. His goal wasn't just to win a battle, it was to subtly undermine his rival's perceived invincibility, to plant seeds of doubt in the public's mind. The silent war was fought with sly smiles and strategic maneuvers. From the Marcy Projects, a different kind of king ascended. Jay-Z, the embodiment of evolution, built an empire on lyrical dexterity, shrewd business deals, and an uncanny ability to reinvent himself. His reign was defined by longevity, cultural impact, and a seamless transition from street hustler to global CEO. He was the established monarch, accustomed to reverence, but always aware of the hungry challengers lurking in the wings. Jay-Z's reign was less about aggressive confrontation and more about strategic dominance. He moved silently, acquiring assets, expanding his influence, and solidifying his position as the ultimate rap mogul. He valued legacy over fleeting feuds, preferring to let his unprecedented success be his loudest statement. However, he also recognized the importance of responding when his throne was genuinely challenged, albeit on his own terms. The new wave of aggressive, street-oriented rappers, like 50 Cent, presented a different kind of challenge. Jay-Z, ever the adapter, observed the shifting landscape. While he respected raw talent, he also understood the importance of maintaining an air of untouchable sophistication, a contrast to the unfiltered grit. His lyrical responses, if any, would be subtle, layered, designed to assert his enduring supremacy without descending into street brawling. The business world was Jay-Z's ultimate battleground. He had successfully transitioned from rapper to boardroom titan, building a multi-billion-dollar empire. He understood that true power lay in ownership and financial independence. He often used his vast wealth and business achievements as a subtle flex, a quiet reminder to anyone challenging him that his reign extended far beyond microphone skills. Jay-Z rarely engaged in prolonged, messy rap beefs unless strategically necessary. His disses were often delivered with a cool confidence, a subtle dismissal that was arguably more cutting than any direct insult. He preferred to let his actions, his success, and his unparalleled legacy speak for themselves. This calculated approach was a power move, designed to assert his dominance without giving rivals the satisfaction of a full-blown lyrical war. The perceived cold shoulder from Jay-Z and his camp was a constant irritant for 50 Cent. He felt that his raw talent and street credibility were being dismissed by the established elite. This fueled his hunger, pushing him to prove his worth, not just on the charts, but in the streets where respect was truly earned. He aimed his lyrical arrows at anyone he felt disrespected him or his burgeoning empire. 50 Cent's track, Jiga Mai No Prowai, a remix, was seen as a direct lyrical shot at Jay-Z. While not the most aggressive diss track of his career, it was a clear statement of challenge, asserting his arrival and his claim to the throne. He wasn't afraid to directly address the king, signaling that the hierarchy was about to be reshuffled. The business rivalry between G-Unit Records and Roc Nation was another silent battlefield. 50 Cent built G-Unit into a powerhouse, replicating Jay-Z's blueprint of artist development and diversified ventures. He aimed to outcompete, to prove that his street-level hustle could outmaneuver the more corporate-aligned empires. This was a war fought with mixtapes, album sales, and strategic market moves. 50 Cent was a master manipulator of public perception. He understood how to control the narrative, how to fan the flames of rivalry without always delivering a direct, undeniable diss. His interviews, his social media posts, and his subtle lyrical jabs were all part of a larger strategy to keep his rivals on edge, always wondering about his next move. His beef with Ja Rule, which was very public and brutal, might have made Jay-Z wary of directly engaging in a full-blown lyrical war with 50 Cent. 50's willingness to go to extreme lengths in his feuds was well known. This perhaps contributed to Jay-Z's more subtle approach, turning their conflict into a silent, strategic chess match rather than a street brawl. Jay-Z's response to 50 Cent's jabs was often through his continued elevation and success. He rarely acknowledged 50 Cent directly, choosing instead to let his growing empire, his global brand deals, and his increasing influence speak for themselves. This was a power play, a dismissal of a challenger who he perhaps felt was beneath a direct lyrical confrontation. He used his elder statesman status as a subtle weapon. Jay-Z would offer general advice or commentary on the state of hip-hop that, without naming names, could be interpreted as a subtle critique of artists like 50 Cent, who relied heavily on street beefs for relevance. He implicitly positioned himself as being beyond such squabbles. The Supa Ugly controversy, while primarily a beef with Nas, showcased Jay-Z's willingness to cross lines when provoked, but also his subsequent retreat from overt, personal attacks. This may have informed his strategy with 50 Cent. Acknowledge the talent, but don't engage in a drawn-out, potentially damaging war. Jay-Z's approach to the silent war was rooted in his business strategy. He aimed to dominate the market through ownership and innovation, not just record sales. He consistently expanded Roc Nation, signed new talent, and ventured into new industries, quietly asserting his supremacy in a way that couldn't be countered by diss tracks alone. The perception of who truly ran New York was a constant underlying tension. Jay-Z, the established king of New York, faced a formidable challenge from 50 Cent, who emerged as a powerful new voice from Queens. Jay-Z maintained his composure, allowing his undeniable legacy and continued success to serve as his ultimate defense.
The perceived Cold War intensified. 50 Cent continued to take subtle jabs, often through interviews or social media posts, challenging Jay-Z's authenticity and connection to the streets. He aimed to expose any perceived hypocrisy, asserting his own raw, unfiltered credibility as the true voice of the underground. His relentless work ethic was a constant challenge to Jay-Z's more selective output. 50 Cent believed that sheer volume, combined with quality, was the key to maintaining relevance and dominating the conversation. He used his prolific nature as a weapon, flooding the market and ensuring his presence was undeniable. The financial stakes were immense. Both were building massive empires, and the silent war was also a battle for market share, endorsements, and cultural influence. 50 Cent reveled in the underdog role, constantly striving to outmaneuver the established giants, proving that his aggressive tactics paid off. 50 Cent's persona thrived on conflict. Even when not directly exchanging diss tracks, his public comments often hinted at underlying tensions, fueling speculation and keeping his rivals on edge. He understood that controversy often translated to relevancy, and he was a master at generating both. He viewed the battle as a test of wills, a proving ground for who truly deserved the crown. 50 Cent believed his journey from the streets to global stardom, overcoming immense obstacles, made him the ultimate victor. He was relentless in his pursuit of absolute dominance, pushing the boundaries of what a rap career could be. Jay-Z's strategy was to rise above the fray. While aware of 50 Cent's jabs and claims, he rarely acknowledged them directly. His focus remained on expanding his business empire, curating his legacy, and cementing his status as a cultural icon rather than a mere participant in rap beefs. This elevated stance was a power move in itself. His lyrical responses, if any, were often couched in metaphors or general statements about competition, demonstrating a level of sophistication that contrasted sharply with 50 Cent's more direct approach. Jay-Z aimed to remind rivals of his lyrical prowess without giving them the satisfaction of a direct, drawn-out war. The Billionaire beef became less about rap songs and more about financial statements. Jay-Z consistently made headlines for his groundbreaking business ventures, his investments, and his unparalleled wealth. He was proving his dominance not just in the booth, but in the boardrooms, where true, lasting power resides. Jay-Z's longevity and adaptability were his strongest arguments. He had weathered countless storms, seen artists come and go, and consistently remained at the pinnacle of the industry. This enduring presence was a testament to his strategic genius and his ability to evolve with the times, always staying ahead of the curve. The silent war ultimately reinforced Jay-Z's status as the undisputed king. He didn't need to engage in every battle. His reign was secured by his unparalleled achievements, his business empire, and his unshakable influence. He proved that sometimes the most powerful response is to simply keep silently asserting dominance. 50 Cent's relentless pursuit of dominance didn't wane. He continued to innovate, to provoke, and to build his brand with an aggressive edge. He believed that the direct, uncompromising approach was the only way to truly challenge established kings, forcing them to acknowledge his power even if they chose to remain silent. The lyrical barbs continued, though often delivered with a smirk. 50 Cent used his wit and his ability to create viral moments to keep the pressure on. He understood that even a seemingly small jab could resonate widely if delivered correctly, keeping the silent war simmering beneath the surface. His street credibility remained an unassailable asset. 50 Cent often hinted at his deeper ties to the streets, subtly contrasting himself with artists who had transitioned more fully into corporate roles. This was his ace in the hole, a reminder that his authenticity was unquestionable. The competition for mindshare was fierce. 50 Cent used every medium, from social media to television, to extend his brand and influence. He aimed to be omnipresent, ensuring that his presence was felt, his power undeniable, even if his rival chose a less direct path of engagement. The silent war was a testament to 50 Cent's calculated aggression. He didn't need a public declaration of war to assert his dominance. His actions, his business moves, and his subtle lyrical jabs spoke volumes. He was playing a long game, aiming to eventually wear down any rival who dared to challenge his rise. Jay-Z's enduring relevance was his strongest counter-argument. He continued to release critically acclaimed music, embark on massive tours, and expand his business ventures, proving that his reign was not dependent on engaging in public feuds. His strategy was to simply outperform, out-innovate, and outlast. His lyrical responses, when they came, were often delivered with a cool detachment, showcasing his veteran status. He might acknowledge a challenger implicitly, but quickly redirect the focus back to his own unmatched accomplishments and his unique position as a cultural and business titan. The billionaire status became Jay-Z's ultimate trump card. In a game often obsessed with wealth, his financial success became undeniable proof of his supremacy, a level of achievement that transcended lyrical battles. He used his wealth as a statement, a flex that spoke louder than any diss track. Jay-Z's legacy as a cultural pioneer was unassailable. He had opened doors, built bridges, and consistently pushed the boundaries of hip-hop beyond just music. He was the blueprint for artist entrepreneurs, and he knew that his foundational impact was something no challenger could truly erase. The Silent War ultimately reinforced Jay-Z's status as the undisputed king. He didn't need to engage in every battle. His reign was secured by his unparalleled achievements, his business empire, and his unshakable influence. He proved that sometimes the most powerful response is to simply keep winning, silently asserting dominance. 50 Cent continued to chip away at Jay-Z's seemingly impenetrable facade. His social media presence, his interviews, and his subtle comments were all designed to highlight perceived vulnerabilities, to challenge the notion of an unblemished reign. He relished the role of the disruptor. He viewed their rivalry as a testament to his own enduring power. To still be seen as a threat to a legend like Jay-Z was a victory in itself for 50 Cent, proving his relevance and his ability to remain a significant force in the industry. 50 Cent's background gave him a unique perspective on the true measure of a king. He believed authenticity and street respect trumped corporate success. He used this belief as a weapon, subtly questioning Jay-Z's connection to the roots of hip-hop. The Silent War became a psychological battle as much as a lyrical one. 50 Cent consistently pushed boundaries, forcing Jay-Z to react, even if only indirectly. He maintained the pressure, keeping the tension simmering, always looking for an opening. His influence on the next generation of aggressive entrepreneurial artists was undeniable. 50 Cent solidified his own legacy as a fearless businessman and rapper, proving that direct confrontation and a strong brand could build an empire from the ground up, perhaps even rivaling the established order. Jay-Z's response to any lingering animosity was to continue innovating and expanding his reach. He pursued ventures in tech, sports, and fashion, demonstrating that his vision extended far beyond the confines of a rap beef. His focus was on building an unparalleled global legacy. His continued success in the music industry, coupled with his vast business empire, served as his ultimate retort. Jay-Z consistently released high-quality music and embarked on successful tours, proving that his reign was sustained by pure artistic and entrepreneurial excellence. The longevity of his career, his ability to remain at the top for decades, was his most powerful argument. Jay-Z showed that true kings endure, adapting and evolving rather than fading away. This was a testament to his unparalleled strategic mind. The Silent War ultimately served to solidify Jay-Z's legendary status. He faced a formidable challenger and emerged with his crown intact, his empire stronger than ever. It was a testament to his resilience, his business acumen, and his undeniable lyrical skill. The battle for hip-hop's ultimate kingship was fierce, but in the end, Jay-Z's reign continued, a testament to his enduring power and influence. The Dynasty War became a legendary chapter, showcasing the raw ambition of a challenger and the unshakable might of an established king.
The media's perception often framed 50 Cent as the aggressor, the instigator of conflict. He embraced this role, using it to his advantage to maintain relevance and drive album sales. He understood that controversy sells, and he was a master of leveraging perceived slights into cultural moments that kept him at the forefront of discussions, even if they were silent battles. His interactions with other artists, particularly those perceived as allies or associates of Jay-Z, were often carefully watched. Any subtle dices or shifts in loyalty from artists within their respective orbits added layers to the unspoken tension. 50 Cent often used these indirect avenues to communicate his stance, making the Silent War more intricate and widespread than just two men. The lyrical content of 50 Cent's albums often contained thinly veiled shots that keen-eared fans understood were aimed at his high-profile rivals. He rarely named names but used specific details or references that were unmistakable to those familiar with the inner workings of the industry. These subtle jabs were designed to get under the skin of his opponents and assert his dominance in the lyrical arena. 50 Cent's approach to business ventures also served as a form of competition. He launched diverse product lines and media projects that directly competed with, or at least mirrored, the entrepreneurial paths of other moguls. Every successful venture was a silent victory, a testament to his ambition to outbuild and outmaneuver his rivals on every playing field. His willingness to challenge the status quo, even that established by revered figures like Jay-Z, solidified his image as a fearless disruptor. He was never content to simply exist. He aimed to redefine. This relentless challenge to authority was a core tenet of his brand, and a driving force behind his consistent pressure in the silent war. Jay-Z's preferred method of engagement was through his art and his undeniable commercial success. He would release critically acclaimed albums and secure multi-million-dollar deals, allowing his accomplishments to speak for themselves. This high-road approach often made his rivals appear less sophisticated, reinforcing his position as a class above the common rap squabble. The King of New York debate was a constant undercurrent. Jay-Z, having claimed that title for years, simply continued to operate at a level that, in his view, transcended the need for direct confrontation. His response to any challenge was to further expand his influence, proving through action rather than words who truly held the crown. His influence on fashion, sports, and technology also served as a subtle counter-narrative to his rap rivals. Jay-Z wasn't just a musician, he was a cultural institution. This broader impact allowed him to seemingly float above direct rap beefs, subtly asserting his dominance in spheres where others couldn't compete. Jay-Z's lyrical maturity evolved, moving away from aggressive battle rapping towards more reflective and aspirational themes. While he could still deliver cutting remarks, his focus shifted to building his legacy beyond disses. This made it harder for rivals to corner him into a traditional rap battle, as he operated on a different plane. The undeniable respect he garnered from his peers and elders, despite any perceived rivalries, was a testament to his status. Jay-Z consistently maintained his alliances and celebrated his victories with grace, showing a level of composure that few could match. This stoic confidence was a silent, powerful weapon in his arsenal. 50 Cent's public feuds with others, like Ja Rule, often served as a proxy for his larger ambitions. He established a reputation for dismantling rivals, sending a clear message to anyone considering a direct confrontation. This battle-tested image was part of his strategic deterrence, a warning to even the most powerful kings. The very nature of 50 Cent's music often contained a raw, aggressive energy that, without naming names, challenged the more polished corporate sounds of his rivals. He embraced the street narrative, believing that authentic struggle and triumph resonated more deeply with the core audience than boardroom accomplishments. His prolific mixtape run, especially early in his career, was a direct assault on the traditional album cycle favored by major artists. 50 Cent flooded the market, demonstrating a tireless work ethic and an ability to dominate the conversation through sheer volume, forcing others to react to his consistent output. The comparison charts and sales figures became another battleground. 50 Cent often publicly highlighted his own commercial successes, sometimes directly contrasting them with his rivals' performance. These were not just numbers, they were scorecards in the silent war, proving his commercial might. 50 Cent's directness in interviews was a stark contrast to Jay-Z's more guarded responses. He often spoke plainly about industry dynamics and competition, sometimes giving just enough information to fuel speculation about underlying tensions, making him a central figure in the silent war's narrative. Jay-Z's response to the continuous stream of new challengers was to consistently elevate his own brand. He didn't just maintain his status, he expanded it into unprecedented realms, becoming a global icon whose influence transcended music. This was his ultimate flex. To be so far ahead that direct competition became irrelevant. His control over his narrative was impeccable. Jay-Z rarely allowed himself to be drawn into situations that would compromise his carefully cultivated image. He was a master of media management, ensuring that public discourse around him focused on his achievements and vision, not on petty beefs. The Rockefeller legacy, built on a foundation of shrewd business and groundbreaking music, served as a constant reminder of his enduring power. Jay-Z proved that building a sustainable empire was more impactful than winning individual rap battles, securing his place in history for generations. His lyrical evolution continued, with later albums often featuring deeper, more introspective themes. This showed a maturation that set him apart, proving he wasn't stagnant or reliant on old formulas. His growth as an artist was a testament to his longevity and continued relevance. Jay-Z's mentorship of artists like Rihanna and Kanye West, early in their careers, indirectly showcased his ongoing influence and power within the industry, solidifying his role as a kingmaker. This influence was another subtle weapon in the Silent War, demonstrating his reach and authority. The Silent War was also a battle for cultural ownership. 50 Cent believed his upbringing and authenticity made him the rightful heir to the street crown, a title he felt was sometimes diluted by those who transitioned too far into the corporate world. He constantly reasserted his street cred. His unapologetic nature and willingness to call out perceived hypocrisy resonated deeply with a segment of the audience. 50 Cent used this to his advantage, positioning himself as the truth teller, the one unafraid to challenge even the most powerful figures in hip-hop. The sheer volume of his music and media content flooded the market, ensuring his constant presence. 50 Cent understood that in a competitive landscape, consistency and visibility were key. He aimed to simply outperform and outproduce, making it impossible to ignore his impact. His business empire grew through bold, sometimes controversial, ventures. 50 Cent was a risk-taker, and his successes in areas like vitamin water became undeniable proof of his entrepreneurial genius, directly rivaling the more established business paths of others. The Silent War was, for 50 Cent, a constant proving ground. Every success, every lyrical jab, every business deal was a testament to his enduring power and his refusal to be sidelined. He remained a formidable challenger, perpetually pushing the boundaries of his own dynasty. Jay-Z's long-term vision transcended typical rap beefs. He aimed to build generational wealth and influence, creating an empire that would endure far beyond any fleeting rivalries. This broader ambition was his ultimate counter-narrative, his way of silently winning the war. His ability to coexist and even collaborate with former rivals, like Nas, showcased a level of maturity and strategic thinking that set him apart. It proved he was above prolonged feuds, prioritizing legacy and profit over petty grievances. This was a masterclass in industry navigation. The sheer magnitude of his influence on culture, extending from music to fashion, sports, and tech, was undeniable. Jay-Z became a global icon, proving that his reign was not just in hip-hop, but across the entire entertainment and business landscape. This made him virtually unassailable. Jay-Z's legacy, built on groundbreaking albums, astute business deals, and cultural impact, remained largely untouched by the Silent War. He continued to be celebrated as a GOAT, his position fortified by time, success, and a strategic mind that always played the long game. Ultimately, the Silent War between 50 Cent and Jay-Z was a fascinating study in power dynamics. While 50 Cent launched relentless, often indirect assaults, Jay-Z responded with calculated silence and undeniable expansion. Their rivalry, though rarely overt, cemented both as titans, with Jay-Z's enduring reign as the ultimate testament to his strategic genius and unshakable position.
Hip-hop empires, they're built on serious lyrical skill, undeniable street cred, and sharp business instincts. And for more than 20 years, two of NYC's heaviest hitters, Jay-Z and 50 Cent, have been tangled up in a rivalry that's way more than just beats and rhymes. Think boardroom strategy as much as bars. Now, this ain't your usual loud, explosive rap beef. Nope, this is a silent war, a high-stakes chess game played with platinum plaques, big money power plays, and the fine art of the subliminal diss. So forget the drive-bys and public brawls you might think of. Picture this instead, a war fought with whispers on multi-million-dollar tracks, where corporate takeovers are the new street corner showdowns. For over 2 decades, a quiet yet fierce battle has been brewing between hip-hop giants Jay-Z and 50 Cent. It's the kind of clash where lyrical jabs hit so hard they draw blood without making a sound, and business moves are so slick, they actually reshape the whole industry. So, how did two of rap's biggest power players end up as these long-standing, often low-key rivals? And what does their silent war really tell us about what power means in hip-hop today? Alright, let's rewind to 1999. While Jay-Z, Shawn Carter, was already a massive star, king of Rockefeller Records, over in Queens, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson was a hungry, bold rapper with big takeover plans. He dropped the track, How to Rob, and it was pure fire, pure provocation. 50 Cent was basically fantasizing about robbing all the big names in the game, and you better believe Jay-Z was on that list. What Jigga just sold like $4 mil, he got something to live for. Don't want to slug through that Bentley coupe door. That move? Totally calculated by 50 Cent to make some serious noise. And boy did he. Jay-Z, not exactly one to back down, fired right back. On stage at the 1999 Summer Jam, and later on his track, It's Hot, Some Like It Hot, Hov dropped a line that people would talk about for years. I'm about $1, what the fuck is 50 Cent? It was dismissive, sure, but it was also an acknowledgement. For 50 Cent, even getting dissed like that was a win. He later said that Jay-Z's response was like a sign he was doing something right, a nod from the king to a prince on the come-up. Then boom, everything changed for 50 Cent. He survived that near-fatal shooting, got Eminem and Dr. Dre in his corner, and just exploded onto the world stage in 2003 with In Da Club and that monster album Get Rich or Die Tryin'. All of a sudden, 50 Cent wasn't just some loudmouth new guy, he was pulling Jay-Z numbers. Even Jay himself saw what was happening. Word is he warned his Rockefeller crew, 50 Cent is coming. The silent war, sparked by 50, just got a new general. Jay-Z, always the chess player, made a surprising move in response to 50 Cent's meteoric rise. Instead of firing back hard, it looked like he was going with that keep your enemies closer vibe. So, in 2003, Jay-Z actually brought 50 Cent and G-Unit on the Rock the Mic tour. It was a classic power move from Hov, showing he was still the boss, but also acknowledging 50's new status. They even did a Reebok commercial together, pushing their sneaker lines. You could call it a business truce orchestrated by Jay-Z in what was becoming a pretty chilly Cold War. But that competitive spirit, especially from Jay-Z's side in maintaining his top spot, was still bubbling under the surface. Late 2003, Jay-Z dropped the Black Album, and G-Unit, with 50 all over it, dropped Beg for Mercy around the same time. The charts turned into another battlefield, with everyone watching their sales numbers, debating who was making the bigger splash. This phase, heavily influenced by Jay-Z's strategic approach, wasn't about direct disses. It was all about who was on top, a quiet fight for the New York crown, and, really, the hip-hop throne. Some people thought Jay-Z's lines on What More Can I Say, where he mentions 50 getting shot, were a sneaky diss. Others saw it as him just acknowledging 50's tough backstory. That was it, or wasn't it? That was all part of Jay-Z's calculated game. That uneasy peace, that strategic coexistence, started to crack, largely due to 50 Cent's actions. By the mid-2000s, the lyrical shots initiated by 50 got a bit more obvious, and you could really feel the tension. On his 2005 album, The Massacre, 50 Cent had the track Piggy Bank, where he went after a bunch of rappers. Jay-Z wasn't the main target, but the song did bring up that infamous 2001 Summer Jam moment when Jay embarrassed Mobb Deep's Prodigy with those childhood dance photos. It was 50 Cent's way of saying, yeah, I remember that, and prodding an old wound involving Jay-Z. And 50 Cent didn't keep it just on records anymore. In 2007, at the Screamfest tour, funny enough, a place they'd shared a stage before, kind of united, things got way more confrontational, reportedly due to 50. Word is, while Jay-Z was performing, 50 Cent actually stormed the stage. The exact details are a bit fuzzy, but it definitely showed things were shifting because of 50's audacity. The silent war was suddenly getting pretty loud and public, thanks to 50 Cent pushing the boundaries. This wasn't just about selling records anymore. This was about respect, about turf, about who was really running things, with 50 Cent making bold, confrontational moves. September 11th, 2007. That date became a huge symbolic battlefield, ultimately showcasing Jay-Z's strategic influence. 50 Cent was about to drop his third album, Curtis, and in a bold move, publicly said he'd retire if Kanye West's album, Graduation, dropping the same day, outsold him. Now Kanye, as we know, was Jay-Z's guy, signed to Rockefeller, and Jay-Z, who was president of Def Jam at the time, was obviously backing Kanye all the way, turning this into a proxy battle. The stakes, largely amplified by Jay-Z's strategic positioning, were massive. It was effectively G-Unit versus Rockefeller, 50 Cent versus Jay-Z through Kanye. The whole industry was watching, fans were going nuts debating it. And when those first week sales numbers dropped, Graduation had clearly outsold Curtis. That was a big moment. Now 50 didn't actually retire, but that L was a major hit to his can't-be-beat image, and a clear win for Team Jay-Z. The silent war had a major battle, and Jay-Z's strategic play, supporting his artist and label, paid off big time. This demonstrated Jay-Z's power, showing it wasn't just about the music anymore, it was about influence, marketing, and who had the power to crown the next superstar. The diss tracks and sales battles got the headlines, sure, but arguably the real lasting fight has been all about business, a field where Jay-Z has set a monumental standard. Think about it. Jay-Z isn't just a rapper, he's an entrepreneur, an empire builder. He's cultivated this image of super sophisticated, diversified wealth with Roc Nation, Tidal, Armand de Brignac Champagne, Douce Cognac. We're talking hip-hop's first billionaire. As of early 2025, Jay-Z's net worth is pegged at a mind-blowing $2.5 billion. 50 Cent's had his big business wins too, don't get it twisted. That vitamin water deal made him a fortune. Plus, G-Unit brand everything. And now he's killing it in TV with the Power Universe. His net worth is solid, somewhere around $40 to $60 million. Reports differ, but yeah, it's not quite on Jay-Z's level. And this difference in their financial empires is another layer to their rivalry, often highlighted by 50 Cent, who is usually the one talking, quick to throw in his 2 cents about Jay-Z's business moves, sometimes with a critical edge. Jay-Z, staying true to that silent war style when it comes to 50's comments on his business, almost never hits back directly. He just lets his bank account, a testament to his empire, do the talking. Even after all these years, the embers of this rivalry are still glowing, and 50 Cent especially makes sure nobody forgets about it with his continued commentary. Remember when Jay dropped 444 in 2017? 50 Cent publicly trashed it, calling it golf course music, basically saying it was too grown up and didn't have that street edge. More recently, 50 Cent claimed Jay-Z tried to stop him from performing at the 2022 Super Bowl halftime show, which Roc Nation, Jay's company, co-produces. According to 50, Eminem was the one who had to step in and insist he be included, a claim that keeps the tension simmering. Things got even spicier from 50 Cent's end with all the recent legal drama around Sean Diddy Combs, who's been tight with Jay-Z for years. When Jay-Z's name came up in a civil lawsuit in late 2024, which Jay strongly denied, by the way, 50 Cent was all over social media, posting memes and wondering out loud about the future of Jay's Roc Nation-run Super Bowl halftime show. He even joked about Jay going to a movie premiere while all this was going on, posting something like, "Jay said they said I rapped sick a kid, everybody get dressed, we going to see Mufasa lol." These comments from 50 Cent, even if meant to be funny, really highlight that ongoing friction. Jay-Z, on the other hand, put out strong denials about the allegations and mostly kept his cool in public, which is pretty much his MO against 50's verbal volleys in this whole long-running silent war. So, what's really at the heart of this never-ending feud, particularly from 50 Cent's perspective, as he's been the most vocal? Is it some deep personal hatred, or more like a calculated, competitive dance? 50 Cent himself has actually given a pretty interesting take. He told MTV once, "It's not like we have something against each other to make us enemies. Me and Jay will use each other, repeatedly, for energy." That quote from 50 Cent suggests it's almost a symbiotic thing, where the competition, the little digs, the one-upmanship, it all fuels their drive, their creativity. and in a 2024 interview, 50 Cent reiterated his view. His beef with Jay is about competition, not personal hate, though he did express frustration when he feels like Jay's competitiveness crosses a line into trying to block his business deals. You know, unlike 50 Cent's really explosive, nasty beefs with other artists, his interactions with Jay-Z have often been characterized by this layer of strategic, almost respectful distance, especially from Jay's side, which contrasts with 50's more direct approach. It's a rivalry that, through 50 Cent's consistent engagement, has definitely pushed both of them, shaped their stories, and given us hip-hop heads endless stuff to talk about. At the end of the day, they're two New York kings, giants of the same game, who took different roads to the top but share that same crazy hunger for success and influence, a dynamic often articulated and propelled by 50 Cent's narrative. It's a clash of philosophies as much as personalities. You've got 50 Cent's loud, in-your-face style versus Jay-Z's more calculated chess master moves. This silent war between Jay-Z and 50 Cent, it's way more than just a bunch of diss tracks and business deals. It's like a masterclass in how power works in hip-hop, a story packed with ambition, ego, and that unstoppable drive to build a legacy. From one provocative line on a mixtape to billion-dollar empires, their rivalry has pretty much mirrored how hip-hop itself blew up, from the street corners to the corporate boardrooms. And look, they might never publicly call a truce or put down their lyrical weapons for good, but their complicated, often quiet battle has definitely made the culture richer. It just goes to show that in the hip-hop game, sometimes the biggest moves are the ones you never see coming. And the loudest statements, they're made in the silence between the lines. The war might be silent, but man, its impact? That resonates loud and clear. So, what do you all think? Who played the game better, Jay-Z or 50 Cent? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We definitely want to hear them. And hey, if you're into more deep dives on hip-hop history and classic rivalries like this one, do us a solid, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and definitely hit that notification bell so you don't miss what we drop next. It's 2025, and the hip-hop world isn't just buzzing, it's exploding. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson is the one striking the matches, and his latest target, none other than Jay-Z. The blowback is reportedly sending Diddy into a rage. We're diving into a relentless onslaught of supposedly unseen footage, bombshell allegations, and a tangled web of accusations, all masterminded by 50, that could reshape our perception of hip-hop titans. You won't want to miss this, because the situation is unraveling fast, and 50 Cent is at the heart of it all. Let's be clear, the feud between 50 Cent and Sean Diddy Combs isn't new. It's been a public spectacle for years. But in 2025, with 50 spearheading the offensive, things have escalated, and now Jay-Z is caught squarely in the crossfire. As Diddy stands trial for incredibly serious charges, racketeering and sex trafficking no less, 50 has been unleashing a firestorm on social media. He's not just taking aim at Diddy, he's also dragging Jay-Z's long-standing ties to the embattled mogul into the spotlight with relentless posts and commentary. And this isn't about a single piece of footage. No, it's a continuous barrage of attacks. Consider May 14, 2025. 50 reportedly dropped an Instagram slideshow featuring photos of Jay-Z and Diddy throughout the years, set to Bill Withers' "Just the Two of Us." His caption was explosive. "Friends till the end. Jay, you still there? We blew up Kid Cudi's car to show him who's the boss, LOL." This directly references disturbing allegations from Cassandra Cassie Ventura's 2023 lawsuit against Diddy, where she claimed a jealous Diddy threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car, a car that later did explode. A Kid Cudi spokesperson reportedly confirmed Cassie's claims as all true. So, this is the nature of the footage and buzz 50 is generating. Old photos given new, incendiary captions he pens, and amplified references to serious, often unproven, or recent allegations. It's not as if he suddenly unearthed a secret video of Jay-Z in a compromising situation. This is an ongoing, calculated campaign of strategically released content and pointed remarks that just don't stop. So, what exactly is 50 Cent unleashing? It's less about a single, definitive smoking gun video of Jay-Z and more about a cleverly orchestrated series of social media posts and public declarations designed to land heavy blows. Here's a look at his playbook. The Kid Cudi car bombing reference? A classic example of his tactics. By circulating such accusations and implicating Jay-Z, even by simply questioning his awareness, 50 ignites conversations and, undeniably, damages reputations. A prominent theme in 50's commentary is Jay-Z's conspicuous silence regarding the Diddy scandal. He's publicly prodded, "Where's Jay at? He's mad quiet," while the Puffy thing was going on, and even insinuated that Jay-Z's team was aware of allegations concerning him. This ties into the lawsuit accusing both Jay-Z and Diddy of assaulting a minor in 2000, a detail 50 hasn't failed to highlight. So, this footage he's peddling, it's essentially the sum of all the damaging narratives and stories he's aggressively pushing. He's not an investigative journalist unearthing hidden tapes. He's a master provocateur, skillfully using existing material, old associations, fresh accusations, to construct a deeply condemnatory image. Jay-Z, a name synonymous with billionaire status, philanthropy, and cultural dominance. But now, that carefully crafted image is under serious assault. The primary source of this heat in 2025, amplified by 50 Cent's relentless campaign, stems from a weighty lawsuit filed in late 2024. An anonymous woman has accused both the Roc Nation founder and Diddy of raping her at age 13 back in 2000, following an MTV Video Music Awards after-party. Puff has come out fighting, vehemently denying all allegations. His company, Roc Nation, issued a statement branding the claims baseless and tantamount to blackmail. Jay-Z expressed heartbreak for his family and vowed to clear his name, stating, "My wife and I will have to sit our children down and explain the cruelty and greed of people." His legal team is also working to dismiss the case, citing inconsistencies in the accuser's recollections. Yet, despite these denials, the mere association with such a grave accusation, especially with Diddy's ongoing sex trafficking and racketeering trial, casts a dark shadow. And 50 Cent, he's adept at exploiting this to Jay-Z's disadvantage. For example, when Jay-Z attended the Mufasa the Lion King premiere with his family in December 2024, amidst these allegations, 50 reportedly mocked him on social media. He allegedly posted, and later deleted, a comment along the lines of, "Jay said they said I rapped a kid. Everybody get dressed, we going to see Mufasa Lowell." 50 also publicly questioned whether Roc Nation should continue producing the Super Bowl halftime show with such accusations looming over its principal. The title says Diddy is not happy about this Jay-Z footage amplified by 50 Cent. But let's delve into what that truly signifies for the bad boy mogul. Yes, the animosity between 50 and Diddy is legendary, dating back to 2006. Interestingly, reports from March 2025 suggested 50 had momentarily set his beef with Diddy aside, even reportedly siding with him in a dispute with Kanye West. So, Puff Daddy's anger likely isn't just about 50 reigniting their old personal squabbles with these Jay-Z-focused posts. It cuts deeper. He is probably furious because drags his name through more mud. Diddy is in a literal fight for his freedom and what remains of his reputation during a federal trial. Any major scandal involving his longtime associate Jay-Z, particularly one that connects to shared, historic allegations like the 2000 rape claim, keeps Diddy's own name in negative headlines. It paints his entire circle as toxic. It implicates his close circle. This touches on the notion of long-held secrets, potentially exposing facets of Diddy's world. The information about Jay-Z, magnified by 50, could unravel more than just one individual's reputation. It suggests a possible culture of silence or cover-ups within their elite group, where Diddy was a central figure. If Jay-Z's image plummets, it reflects poorly on everyone from that era and in those influential circles, including Diddy. Distraction and pressure. His legal team is consumed by his criminal trial. This entire Jay-Z controversy is additional noise and public scrutiny that the music executive absolutely doesn't need. The focus on Jay-Z keeps the public thinking about the very same kind of accusations Diddy himself is confronting. Erosion of alliances. If influential figures like Jay-Z begin to appear tarnished by association or direct accusations, it weakens the entire network Diddy might have relied on for support, whether public or private. So it's not merely Diddy being upset with 50 in a simple, "he's attacking me again" scenario. It's about the substantial, detrimental ripple effects of 50's campaign against Jay-Z, all rebounding onto Diddy, threatening to expose more than he desires, and potentially undermining Jay-Z, who was a significant ally. There are even some unconfirmed wild rumors that Diddy might have leaked information on others as retribution for perceived lack of support during his legal battles. but that remains pure speculation about his actions. This isn't merely about a few harsh Instagram posts. It's interwoven with a much larger, more ominous narrative, primarily revolving around Diddy, a narrative that has the music industry gripped. Sean "Diddy" Combs was arrested in September 2024, and his federal trial for racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion commenced in May 2025. He has remained incarcerated without bail since his arrest. Prosecutors allege that he orchestrated a criminal enterprise involved in sex trafficking, forced labor, and obstruction of justice, among other offenses spanning over 2 decades. Beyond the criminal charges, numerous civil lawsuits accuse him of sexual assault, with some allegations dating back years. Diddy denies all criminal charges and maintains that his sexual relationships were consensual. However, the notorious 2016 hotel video showing him assaulting Cassie, which surfaced in 2024, severely damaged his credibility. Now, Jay-Z being named in the amended lawsuit alongside Diddy concerning the alleged 2000 rape of a minor has pulled Jay-Z directly into this maelstrom. And 50 Cent, he's taken on the role of provocateur in relation to Diddy's downfall, positioning himself as a truth-teller, though many view him as an opportunist capitalizing on the situation. 50 often makes comments like he didn't go to those parties, implying that many celebrities who are silent about Diddy might have been connected to the environment he cultivated. This entire scenario starkly illuminates the complex power dynamics within the industry, where old friendships tied to Diddy and alleged secrets concerning his circle are now being weaponized or are simply coming to light. The legal battles involving Combs are far from over. His trial is anticipated to last for weeks, and we may yet hear even more damaging revelations about him from former associates and alleged victims. Just when you thought this couldn't get any more convoluted, 50 Cent is reportedly developing a documentary allegedly titled "Did He Do It?" for Netflix. He confirmed his production company began work after Cassie's lawsuit was filed in November 2023. He even shared a clip featuring an allegation that Diddy used to spike women's drinks, further solidifying his anti-Diddy narrative. In a September 2024 Variety interview, 50 stated he was producing it for Netflix, although the streaming giant hasn't officially confirmed the project. Later, he remarked, "I'm surprised by the allegations, as surprised as everyone else is. I didn't tell people to say these things. It comes out I see it in the news like everyone else is." This documentary aims to cast 50 as more than a mere social media agitator. He's positioning himself as the chronicler of Diddy's demise. So, what are his motivations? It's likely a combination of factors. Perhaps a genuine desire to expose perceived wrongdoing, an opportunity to settle old vendettas. His feud with Diddy dates back to a 2006 diss track where he accused Puff of knowing who killed the notorious B.I.G. And frankly, it's a sensational story with massive public interest, making it a lucrative venture. He recently framed his involvement by saying, "This is a story with significant human impact. We remain steadfast in our commitment to give a voice to the voiceless." His latest maneuver involves discussing the possibility of Donald Trump pardoning Diddy. 50 has publicly stated his intention to contact Trump to make him aware of Diddy's past negative remarks about the former president, essentially a strategic effort to block any potential pardon. He clarified he wouldn't nuke Diddy's chances, but simply ensure Trump is informed of Diddy's sentiments. This clearly indicates that 50 Cent has no intention of easing up. The repercussions from this accumulation of allegations and public feuds, significantly intensified by 50 Cent, are immense, and Jay-Z is now navigating a perilous course. Despite his denials, Hob is under intense scrutiny. This ordeal could inflict long-term damage on his legacy. While Diddy fights for his freedom in court, Jay-Z is battling to shield his meticulously built image and career from the collateral damage. And the entertainment industry's response to Jay-Z's situation? Predominantly silence. This is a point 50 Cent frequently highlights, and this quietness might leave Jay-Z feeling more vulnerable or subjected to heightened public examination. Public opinion is also divided. Some laud 50 as a revealer of truth, while others decry him as a bully profiting from the misfortunes of others, including Jay-Z. This schism influences how the accusations against the Brooklyn icon are interpreted. Diddy's legal struggles continue, with testimonies depicting harrowing scenes. Concurrently, Jay-Z is still contending with his own legal challenge regarding the 2000 allegation, maintaining his innocence and striving to safeguard his reputation. The pressure on him is enormous as he endeavors to manage the ramifications for his brand, his family, and his cultural standing. So, what's your take on 50 Cent's relentless campaign targeting Jay-Z and Diddy? Is he a truth teller, a pure opportunist, or something in between? And what does this entire saga reveal about the shadowy underbelly of fame and power in the music industry? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We're eager to hear your perspective. This entire saga, predominantly fueled by 50 Cent's 2025 campaign against Jay-Z and Diddy, is a volatile cocktail of grave accusations, long-standing feuds, and intricate media maneuvers orchestrated by 50 himself. While the Jay-Z footage may not be a singular hidden recording, 50's continuous unleashing of detrimental material, narratives, and provocations is undoubtedly making an impact. His actions are rattling Jay-Z's meticulously crafted image to its core and surely creating significant problems for Diddy as he wages his own colossal legal battle, all under 50's ongoing commentary and content creation. Secrets buried for years are being unearthed, largely because of the climate 50 is cultivating. Reputations are suffering, and the tremors from his campaign are reverberating throughout the entertainment industry. This narrative is far from concluded. Fresh details emerge constantly from Diddy's trial, and 50 Cent shows no signs of quieting down with his Diddy Do It project and relentless social media presence. If you found this analysis insightful, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell. You won't want to miss any developments in this ongoing story, heavily influenced by 50 Cent's actions or other major news from the hip-hop sphere. This is a drama that will continue to unfold, and we'll be here to dissect every twist and turn for you.
What happens when two rap legends collide? 50 Cent tried to approach Jay-Z, but someone unexpected stepped in. Stay tuned to find out what really went down between 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and Beyonce. The 2000s hip-hop scene was dominated by fierce competition, but none stood out more than the rivalry between 50 Cent and Jay-Z. When 50 Cent burst onto the scene, he quickly became known for his bold attitude and fearless approach, which didn't sit well with Jay-Z. 50's rise to fame, especially with his hit single In Da Club, began to overshadow Jay-Z's dominance. The two were competing for more than just sales. It was a battle for respect and the top spot in the rap game. The tension was palpable, and everyone knew a clash was coming. Before 50 Cent's emergence, Jay-Z was the undisputed king of hip-hop. His success wasn't just about his music, it was about his entire empire. He was a mogul, a businessman, and an artist with influence that stretched far beyond the rap world. With hits like 99 Problems and albums that dominated the charts, Jay-Z had built a legacy. 50 Cent's rise was seen as a direct challenge to Jay-Z's throne. Jay had maintained his spot at the top for years, but now a new rival had emerged, one who wasn't afraid to shake things up. 50 Cent was never one to shy away from a challenge. As he gained more attention, he started taking shots at Jay-Z, both directly and indirectly, in interviews and through his music. The bold rapper wasn't content with simply releasing hit albums, he wanted to send a message. His diss tracks and interviews became a platform for him to call out Jay-Z and question his status. 50 Cent wasn't just looking for a beef, he was looking to claim his spot at the top and dethrone Jay-Z, something the rap world hadn't seen in years. It was a fateful night in a club where everything changed. Both 50 Cent and Jay-Z happened to be at the same venue, and the atmosphere was charged. The air was thick with tension as whispers of a potential confrontation spread through the crowd. 50 Cent, known for his fearless persona, saw this as the perfect opportunity to confront Jay-Z. Everyone was waiting to see how this would play out. Would 50 Cent go all in and challenge Jay-Z in front of everyone? Or would the night pass without incident? No one knew. As 50 Cent made his way toward Jay-Z, the last person anyone expected to intervene was none other than Beyonce. At the time, Beyonce and Jay-Z were already in a relationship, and she wasn't going to let anyone, not even 50 Cent, disrupt their peace. Beyonce calmly stepped in between the two, her presence immediately stopping 50 Cent in his tracks. With a look of confidence and composure, she made it clear that she was in control of the situation. 50 Cent, for all his bravado, didn't want to escalate things further with Beyonce involved. Beyonce's intervention was a masterclass in handling tension. Calm and composed, she approached the situation with grace, using her presence to diffuse what could have easily turned into a public altercation. It wasn't just about protecting Jay-Z. It was about maintaining the peace and showing that she was not intimidated by the drama surrounding them. 50 Cent, realizing the situation could quickly get out of hand, decided to back off. Beyoncé's powerful role in the moment sent a clear message. She wasn't just Jay-Z's partner, she was his protector, and no one was going to challenge that. The confrontation at the club quickly became the subject of endless speculation. While no one really knew what was said between 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and Beyoncé, the world was buzzing. 50 Cent didn't directly address the incident, and neither did Jay-Z, but the entire situation was a reminder of the power dynamics at play. Beyoncé had played a key role in stopping the conflict before it could escalate, proving that she was not just a bystander in the rap game drama. The public was left wondering, was this the end of their rivalry, or just the beginning of a new chapter? The incident at the club didn't resolve the rivalry, instead it fueled it. 50 Cent had been publicly humiliated by Beyoncé's intervention, but he wasn't one to back down. In the months that followed, both artists continued to throw subtle jabs at each other in their songs, interviews, and social media. The tension in hip-hop was at an all-time high, with fans eagerly awaiting the next move. The rivalry was more than just a battle of music. It had become a battle of egos, with each artist trying to prove that they were the true king of rap. While the focus was often on Jay-Z and 50 Cent, Beyoncé's role in this drama can't be overlooked. She wasn't just a pop superstar, she was an integral part of Jay-Z's world and legacy. Her impact on the rap game went beyond just her music. Her influence extended into the dynamics of the industry itself. Beyoncé represented a different kind of power, one that wasn't necessarily rooted in battle raps or album sales. Her ability to command respect in a room full of men was something both 50 Cent and Jay-Z recognized. Looking back, the 50 Cent-Jay-Z rivalry is considered one of the most iconic feuds in hip-hop history. Though the two would later collaborate, their tensions shaped the narrative of the early 2000s rap scene. The involvement of Beyoncé in this story only added to its complexity, showing that there was more to the drama than just music. The feud was a game of chess, with each move calculated for maximum impact. Even today, the legacy of their rivalry continues to influence the way artists handle competition in the industry.
They acknowledge the material. So they don't give you the trophies. I got the checks, I didn't get the trophies. Jay got all the motherfucking trophies, man. That's because he signed that contract.
What contract?
The one with Beyonce. Look, no, if you don't sign, you don't give him a trophy, she ain't coming. They need them in the seats.
Now, come on, you know, the Beyonce done ran down on you once, Fifth. Come on.
She did. Worse, she jumped off the thing, off the ledge. I was like, oh shit, I didn't really know what to do. Envy, look, it was one of those situations where you was like, whoa. Now look, if you said it's the...
After the confrontation, Jay-Z didn't clap back publicly, but he didn't need to. Jay-Z's moves are often silent but strategic. He focused on expanding his brand, growing Roc Nation, and making business plays that put him further out of reach. 50 Cent, meanwhile, kept stirring things up with interviews and competitive energy. Jay-Z's silence wasn't weakness, it was power. In contrast to 50's loud approach, Jay kept elevating. The message was clear. He didn't need to engage in drama to win. His empire was doing the talking, and the rap game was watching. While Jay-Z remained largely silent, 50 Cent continued to fuel the fire. He took jabs in interviews, poked fun on social media, and even dropped subtle lines in his music aimed at Hav. For 50, this wasn't just a rivalry, it was a long-term campaign. He knew controversy kept him in headlines, and he used that to his advantage. Still, some fans began to wonder, was 50 trying to provoke something that was already over? Or was he using Jay-Z's name to stay relevant in a rapidly changing game? Throughout it all, Beyoncé never publicly addressed the moment in the club. She never threw shade or commented on 50 Cent's antics. Instead, she focused on her own artistry, releasing music, growing her brand, and elevating herself as a cultural icon. Her silence spoke volumes. It showed restraint and class. While the men sparred in the public eye, Beyoncé continued to rise above the noise. She didn't just avoid the beef, she transcended it, showing the world that power sometimes looks like silence and focus. Despite the rivalry, there was always an undercurrent of respect. Both 50 Cent and Jay-Z had carved their own paths and survived the industry's toughest battles. They came from the streets and made it to boardrooms. Even when shots were fired, there was an acknowledgement that each man had done what few could. The tension wasn't just about hate, it was also about ego, legacy, and two kings protecting their thrones. Fans started realizing this wasn't a beef built on real hate. It was about dominance and maybe admiration in disguise. While nothing public escalated after the club incident, industry insiders say there were multiple behind-the-scenes conversations. People in both camps tried to mediate, knowing a full-scale fallout would divide fans and damage business opportunities. Beyoncé reportedly remained a calming force, pushing for peace without ever needing to speak publicly. These behind-closed-doors efforts may have prevented further drama. What fans saw was just the surface. The real game was happening in private rooms with powerful people trying to keep the empire intact. As 50 Cent grew his G-Unit brand and Jay-Z expanded Roc Nation, the rivalry began to shift from personal to corporate. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about labels, artists, and who could build the stronger business empire. Each rapper signed artists, launched ventures, and made major moves. Every success was seen as a win in their ongoing chess match. But this shift from personal beef to business battle made things more interesting. Now, fans weren't just choosing sides in music. They were aligning with movements. Years later, in a rare moment of reflection, 50 Cent hinted that some of his early beefs might have been too aggressive. He didn't name Jay-Z specifically, but fans read between the lines. Had 50 realized that constant confrontation could burn bridges he might need later? It was a rare glimpse of vulnerability from the otherwise fearless rapper. For someone who made a career off disses and drama, that moment stood out. It made people wonder, was there ever a chance for peace or maybe even collaboration? While 50 and Jay battled in music and business, Beyoncé was building a legacy of her own. From her fashion lines to groundbreaking performances like Coachella, she showed the world that she wasn't just a singer, she was a brand. Her influence grew beyond Jay-Z's shadow, making her one of the most powerful entertainers alive. In many ways, her quiet interruption of 50 and Jay back then symbolized a shift in power, not just in the moment, but in the culture. Beyoncé wasn't a feature in this story. She was a force. As the years passed, the public began to see the rivalry differently. What once looked like beef now looked like strategic branding. Both 50 and Jay leveraged their names and tension to stay relevant in headlines. Fans started respecting how each had played the game, and Beyoncé's role became even more iconic in hindsight. An unbothered queen whose one action may have saved an entire night from turning into a disaster. The culture matured, and with it, so did the narrative. Now people look back with curiosity, not conflict. Today, 50 Cent is thriving in film and TV. Jay-Z is a billionaire mogul, and Beyoncé remains an untouchable global icon. The confrontation that once seemed like the spark of a major feud is now part of hip-hop legend. It's not about who won or lost, it's about how all three evolved. The rap game has changed, and these three played a major part in shaping it. That club moment will always be a story worth telling, because it wasn't just a beef, it was a snapshot of power, pride, and presence. One of the most powerful parts of this story is what was never said. Jay-Z never went public with his side. Beyoncé never addressed the confrontation. And even 50 Cent, the loudest of them all, eventually stopped bringing it up. In a culture obsessed with calling out, clapping back, and going viral, this story reminds us that silence can be louder than words. Sometimes choosing not to respond sends the strongest message. It wasn't about fear, it was about control. And in this triangle of power, silence wasn't weakness, it was mastery. This wasn't your average rap beef. It was a triangle of influence between 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and Beyoncé. Each person brought a different kind of power: street credibility, corporate dominance, and cultural royalty. Together, they created a moment that still sparks debate years later. It was more than music. It was a story about pride, presence, and the unspoken rules of respect in hip-hop. Fans didn't just witness a near clash, they witnessed a shift in power dynamics. That moment wasn't about violence, it was about who had the real control in the room. After the club moment, people in the industry started choosing sides, quietly. You had artists, managers, and label execs all reading the situation, careful about who they aligned with. Jay-Z had deep ties and long reach. 50 Cent had street loyalty and commercial success. And Beyoncé's influence extended into spaces even outside of hip-hop. Behind the scenes, this wasn't just a moment. It was a ripple that moved through boardrooms and recording studios. No one wanted to be caught on the wrong side of a silent war. Beyoncé didn't raise her voice, throw a drink, or get in anyone's face. She simply stepped in, and that was enough. It flipped the script on what power looks like in a male-dominated industry. That one moment showed that strength doesn't always need aggression. Beyoncé shifted the energy of the entire room, using grace instead of threats. Her actions made headlines, not because of what she said, but because of what she represented. This wasn't just a woman stepping in. It was the woman commanding the moment. In later interviews, 50 Cent became more self-aware. He joked about past beefs, showed a more strategic side, and made it clear he wasn't as reckless as he once was. Looking back, fans started to appreciate how 50 had grown, not just as a businessman, but as someone who understood the weight of his past. He didn't need to battle anymore. He had won in his own lane. And maybe, just maybe, he realized that stepping to Jay-Z that night wasn't the play. Jay-Z's decision to avoid engaging publicly with 50 wasn't cowardice, it was chess. While 50 was running the media cycle, Jay was building generational wealth. The longer the game played, the clearer it became. Jay-Z was thinking decades ahead. While beefs come and go, billionaires write history. And whether or not he felt disrespected that night, he didn't need to respond. His success would be his answer. Jay-Z's long game was about patience, timing, and knowing that some battles win themselves. That night in the club wasn't just about three celebrities. It became part of hip-hop lore. Fans tell the story like an urban legend, how 50 Cent tried to step to Jay-Z and Beyoncé shut it down. It's passed down in interviews, tweets, and barbershop debates. It didn't need to be filmed or recorded to go viral. The story lives on because it represents something bigger, the way culture is shaped not just by music, but by moments. And this moment, it became a symbol of power, poise, and control. Imagine if Beyoncé hadn't stepped in. Would fists have flown? Would the two legends have burned bridges forever? Would the headlines the next day have been about a brawl, not a quiet confrontation? That one action changed everything. It's crazy to think how differently hip-hop history could have played out if that second of hesitation hadn't been stopped by a calm presence. In a world of what-ifs, this story shows us how a small choice can redirect an entire timeline. There's something poetic about that night. One club, three giants of the culture. Each came from struggle. Each turned pain into empire. Each has changed the world in their own way. And for one brief moment, their paths collided. Not in music, but in energy. The story of that night isn't just about drama, it's about legacy. How three people handled a potentially explosive situation with power, silence, and purpose. It's a reminder that behind every headline, there's a moment that defines history. Years later, fans still talk about what happened that night. But maybe the reason it's stuck is because no one ever fully explained it. The mystery keeps it alive. The silence keeps it powerful. And the way it ended, no beef, no fallout, makes it legendary. Jay-Z kept building, 50 Cent kept creating, Beyoncé kept shining, and the moment became a part of hip-hop myth. It wasn't a fight, it was a moment of restraint, a lesson in power, and a snapshot of three people who understood the game better than anyone else.
Individually, they're icons. Jay-Z, a hip-hop mogul with a fortune in the billions. Beyoncé, a global superstar whose influence is unparalleled. Together, they're a dynasty. But what happens when his carefully built world, or her meticulously crafted image, is rocked by scandals that would have absolutely wrecked most other careers? And we're not just talking about whispers here. These are incidents that blew up in the public eye, making us all wonder what was really going on with each of them. Beyoncé Knowles Carter and Shawn Jay-Z Carter. Their names individually evoke massive success and cultural power. For decades, each has navigated superstardom, often appearing untouchable. Yet their paths have been anything but smooth, marked by controversies that fascinated and sometimes horrified us. Today, we're diving into the shocking scandals that shook Jay-Z to his core, and the crises that tested Beyoncé's incredible resilience. Stuff that, for anyone else, probably would have meant game over. So, how did each of them not only survive these personal storms, but also contribute to their combined legend, making them arguably bigger and more influential than before? This first major scandal threw Jay-Z squarely into the eye of the storm. Alright, let's rewind to 2014. The Met Gala, fashion's biggest night, had just ended. But for Jay-Z, the real drama was unfolding behind closed doors. specifically inside an elevator at the Standard Hotel. Grainy, silent security footage got leaked, and there it was, Jay-Z being physically attacked by his sister-in-law, Solange Knowles. His wife Beyoncé was right there, looking composed, but you could tell, seriously tense. That footage involving Jay-Z went viral almost instantly, and boom, a firestorm of theories. What on earth could make the usually chill Solange lash out at him like that? The Carter-Knowles camp? Dead silent. And that silence just made the rumors fly even faster. Those whispers about Jay-Z cheating, which had been bubbling under the surface for a while, suddenly boiled over. Was this it? Was this the moment his carefully curated marriage image just shattered? The public reaction was huge. Tabloids went nuts, picking apart every single frame of that video focused on Jay-Z, every old lyric of his, every public appearance, looking for clues about his alleged actions. So many people thought, this is the beginning of the end for them. The whole thing was raw, it was public, and it was incredibly embarrassing for Jay-Z. It hinted at some serious messiness involving him that just didn't fit their usual united front. For weeks, everyone was asking, how can he possibly bounce back from this? Well, their comeback strategy was pretty much a masterclass in controlling the story around Jay-Z. First, a joint family statement, rare for them, talking about unity and love, basically saying it was a private family thing they'd already sorted out. Then, Beyoncé, always the savvy artist, gave a little nod to it in her flawless remix, singing, "Of course, sometimes shit goes down when it's $1 billion on an elevator." Pretty clever, right? She acknowledged the incident involving her husband without getting into dirty details, kind of downplaying its seriousness while also reminding everyone of their insane wealth and status. They started being seen together, looking like a solid team. The storm didn't break Jay-Z, they just soaked it up. And the story started to change from, are they splitting? To, wow, how did he handle that? The focus shifted from the drama itself to their cool, if a bit mysterious, way of dealing with a crisis centered on him. Next, we delve into the earth-shattering infidelity saga, a crisis that saw Beyoncé lay bare her pain, prompting Jay-Z's own public response. If the elevator incident was a crack, then Beyoncé's 2016 visual album, Lemonade, was a full-blown earthquake for her world. It ripped open the wounds in her marriage for the whole world to see. And this wasn't just any album, it was Beyoncé's deeply personal, heart-wrenching journey through betrayal, pure rage, and finally, a very fragile kind of forgiveness. Her lyrics like "Becky with the good hair" instantly became iconic, a code word for the other woman, pretty much confirming years of quiet rumors about Jay-Z stepping out and the pain she endured. The impact of Beyoncé's revelation was massive. She laid all her pain out there, turning her private agony into powerful, critically acclaimed art. It was such a bold, vulnerable thing for her to do. So many women saw their own stories in her songs, and Becky became this huge online mystery, with fans desperately trying to figure out who the alleged mistress was. Honestly, the whole scandal could have easily blown up, further villainizing Jay-Z, but instead, it profoundly highlighted Beyoncé's strength and artistry. The rawness of Lemonade was truly shocking. Here's this incredibly famous, intensely private woman basically airing her deepest marital problems. It was a huge gamble that showcased her incredible resilience. Then, Jay-Z had to face the music. In 2017, he dropped his own soul-searching album, 444. If Lemonade was Beyoncé's accusation and raw pain, 444 was Jay-Z's confession, his apology, and his plea to make things right. He didn't shy away from his cheating, rapping, "I apologize," often womanized, "took for my child to be born," see through a woman's eyes. He talked about the shame, his fear of losing his family, and how damn hard it is to rebuild trust. This artistic dialogue, initiated by Beyoncé, was unprecedented. They weren't just selling music, Beyoncé was selling her resilience, Jay-Z his redemption in response. The On the Run 2 tour in 2018, which raked in over $253 million, was like a victory lap, a public show of their reunited front. It proved they could collectively turn personal turmoil into professional triumph, with Beyoncé's art processing the pain and Jay-Z's seeking atonement, making their public bond appear even deeper. Beyond the explosive stuff, there's been this quieter but persistent controversy that has specifically shadowed Jay-Z for years. questions surrounding the timeline of his relationship with Beyoncé and their age difference. Beyoncé has stated her side. She was 18 when she met Jay-Z, and they started dating when she was 19, after a year of friendship. But Jay-Z himself, in a few interviews, has hinted that he knew her when she was younger, perhaps around 16. Old photos showing them together when Beyoncé would have been considered underage have also surfaced. This difference in accounts has fueled a lot of online debate and speculation for ages, focusing on Jay-Z. Now, to be clear, there's never been any solid proof or formal accusation of anything illegal or inappropriate happening involving Jay-Z while Beyoncé was a minor. Still, that ambiguity has made some people a little uneasy about his role in the relationship's beginnings. Especially now, with heightened awareness of power dynamics and age gaps, particularly if a minor is involved, these questions, even without proof, could have thrown a really damaging spotlight on how his iconic love story began. Think about it. If these rumors about Jay-Z's early interactions with a teenage Beyoncé had gained more mainstream traction, or if solid proof of an earlier romantic involvement had emerged, the fallout could have been huge, especially for Jay-Z's image. It could have led to some very awkward questions about grooming or taking advantage of a young, rising star on his part. But Jay-Z has mostly ridden this out by them sticking to their story and, frankly, by the passage of time. Beyoncé's consistent line about dating Jay-Z at 19 has pretty much become the accepted version for most people, deflecting intense scrutiny from him. Plus, their decades-long relationship, marriage, and family have somewhat overshadowed those early questions for many. So, while the internet still loves to debate it, without any real evidence of wrongdoing on Jay-Z's part, it's mostly stayed within online forums instead of blowing up into a career-ending disaster for him. His resilience here seems to stem from their solid public image as a family now, and the lack of hard proof to substantiate the more troubling theories about his early days with Beyoncé. The once brotherly relationship between Jay-Z and Kanye West has seen years of public feuds. But in early 2025, things took an exceptionally ugly and personal turn when Kanye West launched a social media rampage, aiming his fire directly at the children of Jay-Z and Beyoncé. For Beyoncé, a fiercely protective mother, this attack on her young children must have been deeply painful and brought her unwillingly into the fray. In a string of posts on X, formerly Twitter, around March 2025, which he later deleted, West made some truly offensive and disturbing comments about the Carter twins, Rumi and Sir, who were 7 at the time. He reportedly said some awful things questioning their intelligence and even speculated about how they were conceived. The public backlash against West was instant and brutal. Attacking kids? That's a line you just don't cross, even in the often nasty world of celebrity beefs. For Beyoncé, known for fiercely guarding her children's privacy, especially the twins who are rarely seen publicly, this must have been a deeply painful and infuriating moment. The focus shifted to her as a mother having to endure such a public and vile attack on her family. What happened next was that West got widely slammed, and a wave of public sympathy went out to Beyoncé and her family. It really highlighted how nasty public arguments can get, and how vulnerable even the most powerful celebrities are when it comes to their families. This scandal wasn't about something Beyoncé did, but something done to her family, and specifically to her young children. Her response? Classic Beyoncé style, public silence, but reportedly private action was being considered with Jay-Z. Sources said Beyoncé was, understandably, furious, and they were figuring out how to handle it, possibly with lawyers. West eventually took down the offensive posts, supposedly not because of remorse, but due to potential social media account suspension. So this whole nasty incident, while horrible, actually ended up making Beyoncé look more sympathetic, like a victim of an unhinged attack on her maternal role. Her resilience here was all about keeping her dignity, protecting her kids by not getting into a public mudslinging war, and just letting public opinion firmly take her side against West's totally unacceptable behavior. Just when you thought Jay-Z had sailed through his roughest seas, late 2024 brought a brand new, shocking allegation directly against him. In December, Jay-Z was named in a civil lawsuit that also involved Sean Diddy Combs. This lawsuit, filed by a Jane Doe, accused both music moguls, including Jay-Z, of sexually assaulting her when she was just 13 years old, way back in 2000 at an MTV Video Music Awards after-party. The accuser claimed she was drugged and raped by both men, and that another unnamed female celebrity was supposedly there. These allegations against Jay-Z were horrifying, and with all the legal drama already swirling around Diddy, it immediately cast a dark cloud over Jay-Z. His response? Fast and furious. Through his lawyers, Jay-Z flat out denied everything, calling the claims targeting him a blackmail attempt and provably, demonstrably false. He made it clear he wouldn't settle, meaning he was ready to fight these accusations hard. The potential damage to Jay-Z was massive. We're not talking about cheating rumors here. These were accusations of a serious crime involving a kid. In today's world, especially after the Me Too movement, claims like that, even in a civil suit and unproven, could have been absolutely catastrophic for Jay-Z's reputation, his big brand deals, and his whole legacy. The cancel culture voices got louder, with many wondering how he could possibly keep his public standing with such serious accusations hanging over him. But this particular storm, though it was fierce, didn't legally threaten Jay-Z for too long. In a pretty big twist in February 2025, the accuser voluntarily dismissed the lawsuit against Jay-Z and Diddy with prejudice, which means it can't be filed again. Roc Nation, Jay-Z's company, put out a statement calling it a win for him and saying again that the allegations were baseless and made up. Jay-Z himself even released a personal statement, acknowledging the stress his family went through and stressing that while courts need to protect victims, they also have to protect innocent people like himself from false accusations. So, while getting the case dismissed was a legal victory for Jay-Z, the memory of such serious claims can stick around. Still, the fact that it was dismissed so quickly, along with Jay-Z's strong and immediate denial, probably helped lessen any long-term damage for a lot of his fans. It showed he had a strong legal game and could shut down what he insisted was a bogus claim, fast. So, how have Jay-Z and Beyoncé individually and collectively not just survived scandals that could have ended their careers, but in many ways actually fortified their legends? Several factors stand out. First, their strategic use of art. Jay-Z had to weather the storm of the elevator incident, and later, the grave 2024 allegations, often relying on strategic silence or strong legal rebuttals. Beyoncé, on the other hand, famously transformed her private nightmare of infidelity into the public narrative of Lemonade, a work of pain and resilience. Each controlled their narrative because they, or their actions, became the narrators of their respective experiences. Secondly, their presented united front, particularly crucial for Jay-Z after the elevator incident and the age gap questions, and for Beyoncé during the infidelity saga and the attacks on her children, has been vital. Joint tours after personal crises became symbols of their enduring partnership, showcasing a powerful image of solidarity. They understand the power of what things look like. Thirdly, their immense individual and combined wealth and influence cannot be ignored. Jay-Z's net worth is reportedly a mind-blowing $2.5 billion as of early 2025, and Beyoncé's is around $800 million. Together, that's about $3.3 billion. This financial power gives each of them unparalleled control and access to top-tier legal and PR resources. Lawyers, PR, you name it, that most people can only dream of. And finally, both Jay-Z and Beyoncé have mastered the art of strategic silence and selective revelation. Often, one or both will lay low when a scandal first breaks, letting people speculate like crazy, only to address it later, usually indirectly through their music, as Beyoncé often does, or carefully chosen public appearances or statements, as seen with Jay-Z. This builds up this air of mystery and control, making whatever they finally say hit even harder. These public trials, once they get through them, seem to just add more layers to who they are. It makes them look not like perfect, flawless idols, but like complex humans who face stuff and overcome it. And weirdly enough, that can actually make their fans even more loyal to each of them. From elevator altercations challenging Jay-Z's composure to Beyoncé's public processing of infidelity in Lemonade, from quiet, persistent questions about Jay-Z's past to disgusting attacks on their children that surely tested Beyoncé's maternal strength, and finally to Jay-Z facing down serious legal accusations, they have individually faced the ringer with scandals. Every single one of these had the potential to tear down his or her career, their marriage, and those carefully polished public images. Yet, time and time again, he has shown an ability to navigate legal and personal attacks, and she has demonstrated an incredible capacity to transform pain into power. Their combined story is a wild mix of love, betrayal, astute business acumen on both their parts, and an undeniable shared talent for mastering the modern fame game. So, what do you think? How has Jay-Z managed to navigate such serious allegations and scrutiny? How has Beyoncé transformed personal pain and family attacks into such powerful public statements or dignified silences? Were there ever moments you thought his or her career was genuinely on the ropes? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the celebrity world. We're talking about a giant, an absolute empire. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs has dominated the world of hip-hop. He's been a collaborator, a business rival, and a very public figure. But under the billion-dollar fortune, a really complex story has been brewing. Now, with Diddy on trial, facing a storm of shocking federal charges like racketeering and sex trafficking, the carefully built image of his world is starting to crack. What secrets have been hidden in his history all this time? And could the fallout from Diddy's legal battle swallow up more than just his own empire, potentially implicating those in his orbit? Picture this. September 2024. Federal agents raid Diddy's lavish mansions. The charges? They're mind-blowing. A criminal enterprise supposedly built on coercion, abuse, and trafficking. He gets arrested, bail is denied, and now, in June 2025, his trial is in full swing, with some devastating testimonies coming out. This isn't just your typical celebrity scandal. This is a potential day of reckoning for Diddy. And the aftershocks? They're threatening to bring down everything he has built. To really get what's happening now with Diddy, we need to go back. Way back to the early 1990s. New York City. Diddy, who was Puff Daddy back then, with Bad Boy Entertainment, was one of the main architects of hip-hop's cultural boom. He wasn't just making music, he was building a dynasty. His path often crossed with other rising stars, including Jay-Z. Diddy featured Jay-Z on Young G's and cultivated an image of camaraderie with industry peers. Publicly, he seemed like the best of friends with many, projecting an image of unity. He and Jay-Z were often photographed together, like two kings. In 2005, Diddy, alongside Jay-Z, made a very public show of solidarity by donating $1 million to Hurricane Katrina relief. Behind the scenes, navigating early legal troubles in the late 90s reportedly forged some of his connections. Diddy, in later years, would refer to powerful allies as brothers and strategists. He showed up at big-time events, from the Bad Boy reunion tour in 2016 to a Black Billionaire brunch in 2020, always projecting this image of massive success and a tight-knit circle of elites. While Diddy was building Bad Boy, Shawn "Jay-Z" Carter was architecting his own empire with Rockefeller Records. Jay-Z wasn't just an artist, he was a sharp businessman, an empire builder in his own right. Forbes lists often had him and Diddy neck and neck, tracking their ever-growing net worths. Back in 2012, Diddy was estimated at $550 million, Jay-Z at $460 million, and those numbers just kept climbing. This constant comparison naturally fed rumors of a quiet, and sometimes not so quiet, rivalry between the two moguls. Jay-Z also navigated the burgeoning hip-hop scene, collaborating with key figures, including bringing Diddy onto his track, I Know What Girls Like, showcasing a public image of mutual respect. However, they were undeniably fighting for the same spotlight, the same market share, the same awards. Each one was a brand, a symbol of hip-hop success. The same drive that got Jay-Z to the top could also, naturally, make him a rival to others operating in the same space. Were those smiles always real, or were they smart moves by masters playing a very public game of chess? The whole feud narrative wasn't always out in the open with Jay-Z, but the competitive currents flowing underneath as he built his dynasty were undeniable. Each man's success, while celebrated, also set a new standard for the other. All right, let's fast forward to 2024 regarding Diddy. Those whispers and rumors that used to follow him, they turned into a roaring avalanche of federal indictments, racketeering, sex trafficking, transportation to engage in prostitution. These aren't just vague claims. These are charges that paint a disturbing picture of a criminal enterprise allegedly running under the cover of Diddy's music empire. Federal agents raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami. He was arrested in September 2024 and has been repeatedly denied bail. As his trial kicked off in May 2025, the details coming out of the courtroom have been, frankly, horrifying. His former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who had previously settled a civil suit claiming years of abuse, trafficking, and rape, gave some harrowing testimony. Even though Diddy quickly settled her civil case, admitting no guilt, the graphic nature of her allegations, and then that 2016 hotel video that allegedly showed him assaulting Cassie, that all laid the groundwork for these criminal charges. Other accusers, identified as Jane Does in court, have shared similar stories of coercion, control, and forced sexual encounters, sometimes involving male sex workers in what were reportedly called freak-offs. The prosecution says Diddy used his power, his fame, and a network of associates to abuse and silence victims for years. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all criminal charges, and his lawyers are trying to frame this as consensual adult relationships, twisted by accusers who are just after money. The sheer number of allegations and how serious the charges are against Diddy, it's a lot to take in. As this trial keeps going, what do you think this all means for the legacy of Bad Boy Records and Diddy himself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're finding this breakdown helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into stories just like this one. Then, in late 2024, the scandal surrounding Diddy reached Jay-Z's doorstep. He was named alongside Diddy in a civil lawsuit by a woman, Jane Doe, who alleged she was raped by both men at an MTV Video Music Awards after-party back in 2000 when she was just 13. Jay-Z's response was instant and strong. He called the allegations a blackmail attempt and idiotic, swearing he wouldn't pay one red penny. He even filed his own lawsuit against the accuser's lawyer, Tony Busby, for extortion and defamation, suggesting it was all a plot to ruin his reputation. That civil lawsuit against Jay-Z was voluntarily dismissed by the accuser in February 2025. Jay-Z's team called it a win against frivolous, fictitious, and appalling allegations. In his statement, Jay-Z talked about the trauma his family went through because of the claims. Despite this dismissal, just being linked, however briefly and contested, put Jay-Z under intense public scrutiny, especially given his long, if complicated, association with Diddy. With Diddy's trial still happening and new details coming out every day, the untold truth about him is taking center stage. It's about looking at everything related to Diddy again, but this time through the lens of these horrific allegations. Were there signs that were missed? Were whispers about his conduct just ignored? Those jokes Diddy made about a secret society of hip-hop elites suddenly sound a lot more ominous now that he's accused of running a criminal enterprise. Diddy's alleged actions, as detailed in court, point to a pattern of power abuse that, if it's proven, would be a grotesque betrayal of the artists and people who trusted him. Prosecutors are alleging a conspiracy involving Diddy's associates and employees, who supposedly used the huge Bad Boy empire to coerce and abuse victims. Witnesses have testified about Diddy's controlling behavior, his alleged use of drugs to make assaults easier, and how he psychologically manipulated his victims. Meanwhile, his defense keeps arguing these were consensual encounters, and that the accusers are just looking for a payday. The trial has already seen jurors dismissed, and the judge warning Diddy about how he's behaving in court. Every day brings new testimony, new texts, new glimpses into the world Diddy allegedly created. That phrase, shatter their empires? For Diddy, his empire is already crumbling. No matter what the trial's verdict is, his reputation is in shreds. The allegations alone have caused damage that can't be undone. If he's convicted, he's looking at potentially decades in prison. His businesses, his endorsements, his place in culture, all of it is likely to be gone. The carefully constructed world of Diddy, the music mogul, is facing an undeniable and potentially irreversible collapse. The weight of the accusations and the ongoing trial seem to be systematically dismantling the legacy he spent decades building. For Jay-Z, things are a bit different. He was quickly cleared of those civil claims that briefly entangled him with the Diddy scandal. His empire, Roc Nation, is still a major force. His legacy, built on lyrical genius and business savvy, remains strong. However, the shadow of his past association with Diddy, especially during the time Diddy's alleged crimes were happening, will probably stick around. People will keep asking questions, keep looking closely at their past interactions. While there's absolutely no sign Jay-Z was involved in Diddy's alleged criminal activities, the whole scandal highlights the often uncomfortable connections in the entertainment world. Reports suggest Jay-Z has been making a clear effort to distance himself and his brand from all the toxicity around Diddy. His focus has been on aggressively clearing his own name and protecting the empire he worked so hard to build, ensuring his own legacy remains untarnished. The Diddy trial is a long way from being over, and we'll be feeling the effects for years. It's forcing everyone to rethink an entire era of music and culture defined by figures like Diddy and Jay-Z. What started as a story of two ambitious young guys from New York who took on the world has taken a really dark and disturbing turn for one of them, a turn that could redefine legacies and force some uncomfortable truths to the surface within an industry they helped build. The saga of Diddy and its brief intersection with Jay-Z's world is a stark reminder that the truth, especially the kind that's been kept quiet, has a habit of coming out eventually, often with devastating results for those involved. What are your biggest takeaways from this whole ongoing situation concerning Diddy and Jay-Z's navigation of the periphery? Do you think this will actually lead to bigger changes in the music industry? Share your thoughts in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our future updates and analyses on the stories that shape our culture. Thanks for watching. So, 50 Cent is dropping bombshells. Did hip-hop titan Jay-Z, a power player in the Super Bowl halftime show, really try to bench him from a career-defining moment? We're going deep into 50's explosive claims, a feud that's been brewing for ages, and the intense power plays unfolding on music's biggest stage. Welcome. We're diving into a storm brewed by none other than Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, a rapper known for his unfiltered truth. He's at the heart of some serious music industry drama, and frankly, we're here for it. The main event, the epic 2022 Super Bowl halftime show. 50 made a show-stopping surprise appearance, but according to him, getting there was a battle. He's pointing fingers, claiming that behind the scenes, there were moves to keep him off that stage. We're talking about dissecting 50 Cent's side of the story, looking at his long-running feud that he believes led to this, and figuring out what his claims about these power struggles really mean for music. This beef? From 50 Cent's perspective, it's ancient hip-hop history, stretching all the way back to the late 90s and early 2000s. As 50 tells it, he and Jay-Z both hustled their way to the top in New York City, but their parallel journeys were always charged with intense competition. It all arguably kicked off with 50 Cent's 1999 track, How to Rob, where he infamously and fictionally detailed robbing music industry heavyweights. While Jay-Z wasn't the main target, 50 established his provocative style. Jay-Z did fire back lyrically, notably in tracks like It's Hot, Some Like It Hot. Interestingly, 50 Cent has said he saw Jay-Z's lyrical responses as a kind of respect, Jay acknowledging his arrival. He even suggested Jay-Z dissing him might have actually helped his career. They even toured together on Rock the Mic in 2003, but 50 says that didn't stop the competitive vibe. He's consistently described their dynamic as being about competition, not real personal hate, stating in a 2011 interview that their interactions are all about this competitive spirit. As he famously put it, "Me and Jay will use each other," repeatedly, for energy. Yet 50 has definitely been the more outspoken, often criticizing Jay-Z's projects. Remember 2017? He called Jay-Z's 444 album golf course music, saying it was too smart for everyday folks. This long history of rivalry from 50's point of view and his outspoken nature is key to understanding his more recent and much more serious claims about the Super Bowl. He clearly feels this old rivalry jumped from lyrics to direct attempts to mess with his business and career. That 2022 Super Bowl halftime show in LA, a landmark moment for hip-hop. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, legendary. And then, bam, 50 Cent's stunning surprise, performing in Da Club upside down. Unforgettable. But if you ask 50 Cent, getting onto that stage was a brutal fight, one he claims was orchestrated by powerful forces. Since 2019, Jay-Z's Roc Nation has partnered with the NFL, co-producing the halftime show and picking artists. This deal itself has stirred up its own controversy, especially around the NFL's handling of Colin Kaepernick's protests. So, here's 50's bombshell. He alleges that this significant influence was used to try and keep him out of the 2022 show. 50 claims the narrative pushed was that the NFL had an issue with him, a neat excuse. But 50 wasn't buying it. He fired back in an interview. He was saying to Eminem that the NFL had the issue with me, and I'm like, well, what's the issue? Why don't they have an issue when I'm becoming a partner with the actual teams? But they have an issue with my performance? It makes no sense. He's pointing to his business deals, like Sire Spirits, partnered with NFL teams. So, how did 50 make it? He gives all credit to his longtime friend, Eminem. 50 has repeatedly said Eminem drew a line, telling organizers he wouldn't perform if 50 wasn't there. Eminem wouldn't do it without me. That's how I ended up on the show because he was not coming if I didn't do it, 50 revealed. He added, when that happens, you go, damn, so you just lost Eminem because you didn't bring 50? Damn. All right, bring 50 then. But if it was up to them, they would not have me there. NORE also shared a story, claiming he was told that the white guy called for 50 Cent, referring to Eminem. 50 Cent later questioned the phrasing, wondering why Eminem wasn't called the biggest rap artist in the world, and why he should even have to make that demand. For 50 Cent, these alleged actions were just their long-standing rivalry hitting a new peak, but this time, crossing from music into his business. He sounded genuinely baffled by it, saying, right now, he's not even competing for a slot. He doesn't have a new song out that he wants to be top 10, and he's still competing. It don't make sense. What are we competing for? What's the goal? You can feel his frustration over what he sees as an unnecessary and damaging escalation. If 50 Cent's claims are on the money, it shines a spotlight on some serious power dynamics within the music industry, particularly around Jay-Z's Roc Nation. Their partnership with the NFL, kicking off in 2019, was billed as a way to boost the league's entertainment and its Inspire Change social justice initiative. This deal undoubtedly gave Jay-Z and Roc Nation huge sway over one of the world's most watched TV events. However, this partnership has faced its share of criticism, especially considering the NFL's past handling of Colin Kaepernick and questions about whether the Roc Nation deal was a PR fix while Kaepernick wasn't playing. 50 Cent's allegations imply that Jay-Z's influence through Roc Nation could potentially be wielded to settle old scores or manage rivalries, effectively positioning them as gatekeepers for monumental opportunities like the Super Bowl halftime show. From an artist's viewpoint, this isn't merely about artistic superiority, it's about Jay-Z's strategic moves that can profoundly impact careers. The Super Bowl stage offers unparalleled exposure, and the thought of being potentially blocked by Jay-Z up here would undoubtedly be a massive blow. The spotlight on Roc Nation and Jay-Z didn't dim there. When Kendrick Lamar was announced as the headliner for the 2025 show in New Orleans, a decision driven by Roc Nation and Jay-Z, it ignited another fiery debate. Many felt New Orleans' own Lil Wayne was unjustly overlooked by Jay-Z's company for the show in his hometown. Lil Wayne himself admitted the omission hurt a lot. Interestingly, while 50 Cent defended Kendrick's selection, acknowledging Kendrick's current standing, this again highlighted Roc Nation's and Jay-Z's decision-making power. More recently, Jay-Z and his Roc Nation NFL deal have faced even more intense scrutiny due to serious legal allegations leveled against Jay-Z in late 2024. While Jay-Z has vehemently denied these allegations, they prompted questions, publicly voiced by 50 Cent, about the implications for the Super Bowl and Roc Nation's involvement. 50 Cent posted on social media, questioning if the controversy could jeopardize the NFL's partnership with Roc Nation, asking on behalf of Kendrick Lamar. Despite this, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has affirmed that the league's relationship with Roc Nation under Jay-Z remains strong. Even as 50 Cent discussed the lawsuit, he reiterated that his rivalry with Jay-Z is fundamentally about being competitive, but his ongoing social media jabs at Jay-Z regarding these allegations continued. All these developments add further complexity to the broader questions surrounding Jay-Z's power, influence, and accountability within the entertainment business. The Super Bowl halftime show, under Roc Nation's guidance with Jay-Z, has aimed to spotlight diverse artists and Black music. But the claims originally voiced by 50 Cent, coupled with these other controversies surrounding Jay-Z and Roc Nation, continue to fuel questions about the behind-the-scenes politics and personal vendettas that might be shaping these monumental decisions. So here's the bottom line from 50 Cent's camp. He believes his long, fiery rivalry with Jay-Z boiled over into a direct move to keep him out of that landmark 2022 Super Bowl halftime show. 50 is absolutely certain that if it wasn't for Eminem's steadfast support, his unforgettable upside-down in Da Club moment would never have happened. And even though he's backed Roc Nation's pick of Kendrick Lamar for the 2025 show, 50 Cent's comments always seem to come back to his view of Jay-Z's competitive nature spilling beyond music into business. This whole unfolding saga, now tangled with the recent serious allegations against Jay-Z and 50's characteristically direct responses, highlights just how complicated and, let's face it, messy the music biz can be. It's a place where personal beefs, big money deals, and massive cultural moments crash into each other on the world's biggest platforms. In the end, what 50 Cent appears to be saying is, competition is one thing, but trying to actively block someone's shine, that's a whole other, much more serious playbook. What's your take on 50 Cent's explosive claims? Is this just a classic case of hip-hop rivalry heating up, or is there a deeper layer of industry politics at play? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. And if you love diving into music industry controversies and artist feuds, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks for watching.
Jay-Z ain't answering the phone?
He ain't answering the motherfucking phone.
And, I remember one time walking in the studio, Bleak Beans, everybody was in there, and I was like, man, I'm telling you, man, y'all got a chance right now, just flood it, put out a lot of music, because 50 Cent is coming. And, 4 months later, in the club hit, and it was over. And it was just like, okay, now everybody got to sit on the sidelines and wait this tidal wave out.
2 kings, 2 empires, 1 silent war. Jay-Z and 50 Cent never exchanged open shots like Drake and Pusha T, but behind the suits, champagne, and billions lies a deep-rooted tension. It's more than competition. It's ego, legacy, and a battle for power at the top of hip-hop. What really happened behind the scenes? Why did they never join forces, even as moguls? This isn't just rap beef. It's a power play that shaped an entire generation of music and money. Jay-Z wasn't just a rapper. From day one, he was building an empire. Rockefeller wasn't just a label, it was his kingdom. By the early 2000s, he was already thinking like a CEO, not a street rapper. That's why when new stars started rising from the streets, aggressive, unfiltered, and loud, Jay watched them carefully. He respected hustle, but he also valued control. And 50 Cent, he was the definition of uncontrollable. That made him both a threat and a test. Would Jay-Z co-sign him or quietly block the rise? When Jay-Z became president of Def Jam in 2004, he held major power over who got signed, promoted, or shelved. 50 Cent, meanwhile, was dominating with G-Unit in his Aftermath shady deals. But insiders say Jay blocked several rising NY rappers who were close to 50. Not openly, but silently. It was chess, not checkers. Jay didn't diss 50 publicly, but he made sure no G-Unit affiliate threatened his empire from the inside. It wasn't beef, it was business warfare. Jay-Z never sought validation from the streets the way 50 did. He came from the Marcy projects, but once he crossed into corporate, he never looked back. 50 Cent's brand was built on raw authenticity, gun wounds, and rebellion. Jay's brand was about transformation, drug dealer turned billionaire. For him, aligning with 50 could damage the Polish he had built. That's why, despite 50's fame, he kept his distance. Not because he feared him, but because 50 didn't fit into his vision of growth. When 50 Cent dropped Get Rich or Die Tryin', he didn't just change music, he shifted the power structure. He had Dr. Dre and Eminem behind him, but he didn't play the industry's politics. That scared a lot of executives, especially in New York. 50 called out everyone, even legends. Jay-Z wasn't exempt. Even if he wasn't mentioned by name, 50's aggressive takeover was a message. I'm here, and I don't care who runs what. The energy was disruptive, and Jay didn't like disruption. 50 Cent never directly dissed Jay-Z in early interviews, but his tone was always dismissive. He called out New York artists for being too friendly with each other. He mocked the cool guys of the industry who wore suits and never got their hands dirty. It was indirect, but fans read between the lines. Jay-Z represented everything 50 hated, and 50 represented everything Jay had evolved past. And even without bars being exchanged, the tension was thick in the culture. At his peak, 50 didn't just want sales, he wanted power. He launched his own label, clothing line, movies, and tried to sign artists before they broke. Even some who Jay-Z was watching. Every time Jay made a corporate move, 50 responded with something louder, brasher, or riskier. Their paths never crossed directly, but in boardrooms and behind closed doors, it was known. 50 wanted to outdo Jay. And Jay, he made sure he always stayed one step ahead. In an industry full of diss tracks and clout chasing, Jay-Z's silence was strategic. When 50 Cent kept dominating charts, clowning rivals, and stirring drama, Jay barely responded publicly. That silence wasn't respect, it was power. Jay knew speaking on 50 would elevate him more, so instead he worked behind the scenes, securing deals, climbing higher. He wasn't battling 50 on records, he was battling him at the table, where the real money was. And that silence, it told 50 everything he needed to know. At Summer Jam 2006, Jay-Z brought out Nas, his former enemy turned ally, to make a statement. He could squash any beef, align with any legend. The crowd erupted. And while 50 was watching, he knew what that meant. Jay was tightening his grip on New York. Nas had once been 50's potential ally too, but Jay outplayed him. 50 may have been louder, but Jay's moves echoed in every corner of the city. Power wasn't just in the bars, it was in alliances. By 2008, Jay-Z had launched Roc Nation. Not just a label, but a full-blown empire. It wasn't gritty or aggressive. It was polished, brand-friendly, and global. He signed athletes, artists, and negotiated billion-dollar deals. Meanwhile, 50 Cent was still pushing the G-Unit vision. Raw, street-focused, and built on loyalty. The two visions couldn't coexist. Roc Nation was the industry's future, G-Unit was the past with teeth. Jay's success wasn't personal to 50, but it made it harder for G-Unit to be seen as the top game in town. 50 Cent knew how to bait people. He used interviews, skits, and even social media to take subtle shots at Jay-Z's image. He'd call him boring, corporate, or mock him for being too distant from the culture. He joked about Jay not helping artists unless they fit his elite club. These jabs weren't random. 50 understood that by poking at Jay's aloofness, he was turning fans against the idea that Jay-Z was still hip-hop. And while Jay stayed quiet, the streets were listening. One of the biggest turning points came when Beanie Sigel, a former Rockefeller soldier, turned on Jay-Z and claimed he abandoned his crew. 50 Cent saw the opening and welcomed Beanie publicly, offering him a platform and even a G-Unit cosign. This wasn't just about Beanie, it was 50's way of saying, "I ride for mine, unlike Jay." It made Jay look cold and gave 50 more street credibility. Whether it was genuine or strategic, 50 played that move like a master chess player. While building G-Unit Films and Vitamin Water success, 50 wasn't just chasing money, he was chasing legacy. He wanted to prove that street smarts could beat Ivy League moves. Every deal 50 made was louder, riskier, and meant to shake up Jay's corporate calm. He bragged about not needing a suit, not needing handshakes. He wanted to show the world that a hustler could play billionaire without changing who he was. Jay-Z may have taken the elevator, but 50 was climbing the stairs, punching walls on the way up. Jay-Z evolved into a symbol of sophistication. His investments weren't just in businesses. He was buying Basquiat's, launching luxury brands, and speaking at Harvard. It wasn't about money, it was about taste. Meanwhile, whispers spread that Jay no longer represented the gritty come-up. 50 Cent, watching closely, saw it as the final transformation. Jay was no longer the hustler, he was the establishment. And for some in the culture, that made Jay a target. Someone who had risen too far from the streets that made him. When Jay-Z sat next to Warren Buffett and Forbes, the internet lost its mind. This wasn't just a flex, it was a statement. Jay wasn't playing rap anymore, he was playing capitalism. But behind that headline was a shadow, because while Jay was networking with billionaires, many from Rockefeller were struggling. The optics were complex. Jay had elevated himself, but not everyone came with him. To 50 Cent, this was proof Jay picked the boardroom over the block and left his roots behind. Jay-Z once boycotted the Grammys for disrespecting DMX, but in recent years he became their darling. He performed in suits, accepted awards, and shook hands with execs who once ignored hip-hop. 50 Cent mocked the shift, saying awards meant nothing if the culture wasn't respected. He refused to play the game, often skipping major ceremonies altogether. To him, Jay had crossed over too far, and the Grammys represented the ultimate betrayal of what hip-hop started as rebellion. For 50, it was never about trophies, it was about loyalty. Unlike Jay's quiet power moves, 50 Cent built his empire by making noise. TV shows, liquor deals, social media rants. He was in your face everywhere. He didn't just want success, he wanted credit. He wanted his name in lights and on headlines. In his mind, if you weren't dominating conversations, you were irrelevant. He saw Jay's low-key moves as too polished or too careful. 50 wanted to win, but he wanted to look like he was winning too. And that meant staying loud, aggressive, and undeniable. When 50 Cent started producing BMF based on Black Mafia family's real-life drug empire, the streets embraced it. It was raw, authentic, and reminded people where 50 came from. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's Roc Nation was partnering with the NFL and major brands. To fans, it felt like two different worlds. One told stories of survival and power in the streets, the other of luxury and legacy. 50 was bringing street legends to TV. Jay was hanging with Goodell, and fans couldn't help but choose a side. In a radio interview, 50 once joked about Beyoncé trying to check him in a hallway. It was lighthearted, but the message was deeper. 50 was still fearless, even around royalty. He didn't flinch when it came to Jay-Z's circle. That comment spread fast, and fans wondered if 50 was trying to poke the bear again. The fact he brought up Beyoncé, Jay's most prized relationship, was bold. Whether it was real or not, it reminded everyone, 50 would press anyone, even the Queen. Jay-Z turned Roc Nation into more than a label. It became a full-blown empire. Athletes, artists, moguls. It was polished, curated, and media-savvy. Meanwhile, G-Unit felt like a chaotic force, raw, volatile, and real. Jay played chess with CEOs. 50 played street ball with sharks. The contrast wasn't just in style, but in substance. Jay kept expanding upward. 50 stayed grounded in storytelling, street culture, and shock value. That gap kept growing, and so did the quiet distance between the two icons. Two kings ruling separate kingdoms with very different codes. When Jay-Z partnered with the NFL after the Colin Kaepernick fallout, it shocked the culture. Many saw it as a betrayal, especially from someone who once rapped about social justice. Jay defended his move, claiming it was about progress from within, but critics weren't buying it. 50 Cent threw subtle shade, calling it business over principle. In the war of perception, 50 stood with the streets, while Jay played chess with billionaires. The NFL deal wasn't just a move, it became a moral flashpoint, and it deepened the philosophical divide between them. When Jay-Z and Kanye released Watch the Throne, it was a cultural moment. Two titans teaming up. But one titan wasn't invited, 50 Cent. The omission wasn't lost on fans. In interviews, 50 downplayed it, but his tone said more than words. Some believed Jay didn't see 50 as creatively elite, only commercially. Others saw it as Jay aligning with the art crowd, distancing from the street kings. The throne was built, but 50 wasn't offered a seat. And from that point, the rivalry wasn't just personal, it became symbolic. In Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, 50 Cent dropped gems and some shade. He discussed Jay-Z without naming names, questioning artists who turned mogul and lost touch with the people. Readers knew who he meant. It wasn't just criticism, it was strategy. 50 used his book to reinforce his brand as the no-filter king of success. Unlike Jay, who moved in silence, 50 weaponized transparency. And the way he told it, there were moguls, and then there were real ones. The book wasn't just a guide, it was a flex. Jay-Z launched Tidal to give artists more ownership in streaming. It was about equity, legacy, and long-term wins. Meanwhile, 50 Cent turned stars into his playground, with Power, BMF, and constant online rants when things didn't go his way. Both were pushing content, but in different ways. Jay aimed for legacy, 50 aimed for domination. Jay's streaming empire was high-level strategy. 50's content empire was volume, drama, and street storytelling. Two moguls with platforms, but very different methods of war. Jay-Z rarely posts. No tweets, no IG rants. His silence is his power. 50 Cent, the complete opposite. He lives on Instagram, trolling, marketing, and dropping bombs. Every post is part of his strategy. Jay believes mystery builds respect. 50 believes attention builds empires. Fans are split. Some admire Jay's class. Others love 50's chaos. But one thing's clear. In the era of content, both approaches work. And it's that difference in personality that makes their tension so fascinating, because neither will ever play by the other's rules. Beyoncé isn't just Jay-Z's wife. She's an empire herself. And for someone as image-conscious as her, not everyone gets access. Insiders say she wasn't thrilled with 50 Cent's brash style and public feuds. Behind closed doors, her influence matters. A lot. If Beyoncé wasn't comfortable, neither was Jay. 50 even admitted she once confronted him, making things icy. This wasn't just business politics, it was personal preference. And when you have Beyoncé in your corner, her instincts often become law. The invisible wall was built, and 50 was firmly on the outside. Jay-Z has collected Grammys like trophies, celebrated by the mainstream, praised by institutions. 50 Cent? Not so much. Despite massive success, he often felt snubbed. The divide is more than awards. It's about validation. Jay became the industry's favorite. 50 stayed the outsider. Powerful, but purposely rebellious. That Grammy gap fueled resentment. 50 saw Jay as the artist who played the game. Jay saw 50 as the one who refused to evolve. In an industry that rewards conformity, their approaches were night and day, and so was the treatment they received. Jay-Z talks about legacy like a mission. Roc Nation, the Reform Alliance, ownership, all pillars of a larger narrative. He's building a legend brick by brick. 50 Cent? His legacy is built on shockwaves, music, TV, books, memes. His footprint is undeniable, but his style, unfiltered, chaotic, unforgettable. Both have reshaped hip-hop, but when it comes to legacy, they're painting different portraits. Jay wants statues, 50 wants headlines. And neither is willing to respect the other's vision. That silent war over how history will remember them might be their realest conflict yet. As G-Unit fractured, many saw it as 50's failure. But he spun it differently. He outgrew them. While Jay built an empire with carefully selected allies, 50 often stood alone. He didn't nurture protégés, he dominated them. The fall of G-Unit was messy, but it gave birth to 50 the TV mogul, the entrepreneur, the solo juggernaut. Jay kept building a legacy with unity. 50 embraced isolation. For him, alliances were temporary, power, permanent. The fall wasn't the end, it was a pivot, and he never needed validation to reinvent. Despite crossing paths at major events, 50 and Jay have never squashed their tension. No collaboration, no public brotherhood, nothing. 50 has offered sarcastic compliments. Jay has responded with silence. In hip-hop, beefs fade, but this one, it aged like wine, bitter and full of layers. Maybe it's ego, maybe it's deeper. Two titans who shaped the culture and couldn't be more different. And fans, they love it. Because in a world where everyone's friends, this Cold War feels real. And authenticity, even in rivalry, still sells. Jay-Z and 50 Cent are both billion-dollar forces, but they represent two completely different ideologies. Jay is about strategy, silence, corporate elegance. 50 is raw, relentless, in your face. Both achieved greatness, but never on the same terms. That's why they'll never be friends, because it's not just personal, it's philosophical. Two kings in the same kingdom, but different rules. No handshake, no collaboration, just mutual dominance from two sides of hip-hop's evolving throne. And maybe that tension is what keeps their names forever intertwined. Not as allies, but as unmatched opposites.
In hip-hop, not every feud erupts into a diss track or a public meltdown. Some rivalries are cold wars, quiet, strategic, and loaded with unspoken meaning. Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z represent two different eras, two different codes of the game. But beneath the surface, fans and insiders have sensed a quiet tension, a mutual respect laced with subtle rivalry. From cryptic lyrics to missed collaborations and competitive moves, this is the story of a silent chess match between two of hip-hop's most powerful minds. When Kendrick Lamar burst onto the mainstream scene with Good Kid, M.A.I.D. City, it didn't take long before industry titans started paying attention, including Jay-Z. Though Jay had already passed the torch to Kanye publicly, Kendrick's rapid rise challenged that narrative. Huff watched carefully, respecting Kendrick's lyricism, but knowing the game well enough to sense the threat. When Jay-Z jumped on the Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe remix, it felt more like a test than a cosign. It was Jay's way of stepping into the arena, not to mentor, but to measure. Jay-Z has always positioned himself as a godfather of lyrical rap, controlled, metaphorical, and deeply calculated. But Kendrick's raw emotional delivery and multi-layered verses began drawing critical comparisons. Fans on forums and YouTube comment sections started debating who the better lyricist really was. Though Jay never addressed it directly, insiders say he was not thrilled about the rising narrative that Kendrick was the next lyrical king. Jay's decision to hold off on a full collaboration spoke volumes. Not beef, but boundaries. Jay-Z, through his Roc Nation imprint, made moves to align with nearly every rising force in hip-hop, except Kendrick. While Jay brought artists like J. Cole into his camp and kept close tabs on industry shifts, he kept a calculated distance from TDE. Sources claim Hobb didn't want to be overshadowed by an artist he couldn't control. While he publicly praised Kendrick's artistry, behind the scenes, it was all chess. Business is war, and Kendrick wasn't part of his army. Kendrick Lamar has always shown a respectful tone when mentioning Jay-Z. In interviews, he called him a blueprint and an icon. But Kendrick never seemed interested in being mentored. He took the remix with Jay-Z, sure, but refused to be boxed in as a protege. This resistance wasn't loud. It was strategic. Kendrick wanted his legacy to be independent of any cosign. His focus was on building TDE and crafting his own kingdom, not fitting into someone else's dynasty. Kendrick is no stranger to sending subtle messages through lyrics. On songs like King Kunta and Control, fans speculated whether lines were aimed at elder rap statesmen like Jay-Z. Kendrick never confirmed it, but the tone was clear. He was ready to claim the throne, no matter who was sitting on it. Meanwhile, Jay's silence was equally strategic. Rather than clap back, he ignored, knowing full well that engaging would legitimize the challenge. When Kendrick won the Pulitzer Prize and Jay-Z was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, fans couldn't help but draw comparisons. These weren't just accolades. They were markers of legacy. Kendrick was becoming the first in new spaces Jay-Z had never entered, while Jay continued building a billion-dollar empire. Both men moved like kings, but with different kingdoms. They never dissed each other, yet their parallel paths always hinted at an unspoken rivalry, one that still simmers under the surface. Jay-Z has long had a complicated relationship with the Grammys. While he's won many, he's also boycotted and criticized the institution. But when Kendrick was famously snubbed in 2014 after Good Kid, MAAD City lost to Macklemore, Jay's silence was noticeable. Fans expected the hip-hop mogul to speak up for lyrical excellence, especially since he had once been the victim of similar snubs. But Jay stayed quiet. Some saw this as a subtle flex, a move to let the younger generation fend for themselves. Kendrick was clearly a rival now, not an underdog to protect. Kendrick has worked with many top-tier artists, but one label he's never infiltrated is Roc Nation. Jay-Z has offered management to artists across genres, Rihanna, J. Cole, even sports stars, but never Kendrick. Industry insiders suggest that Jay didn't want a creative powerhouse like Kendrick disrupting his ecosystem. A partnership would have been historic, but instead, a wall remained. Whether ego, strategy, or protection of legacy, Jay made sure to keep TDE at arm's length. The tension wasn't about hate, it was about hierarchy. When Kendrick dropped his now legendary verse on Big Sean's Control, calling out nearly every major rapper by name, Jay-Z was one of the few left unmentioned. Many speculated it was a sign of respect, others believed it was strategic omission. Still, Jay-Z never responded, not even with a subliminal. Instead, he released Magna Carta, holy grail around the same era, doubling down on his art collector billionaire image. Jay let his wealth and legacy do the talking. No bars, just business. On to Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick Lamar cemented himself as not just a rapper, but a movement. Songs like King Kunta and All Right declared ownership of his throne. While never directly naming Jay-Z, Kendrick's verses suggested a rejection of industry kingship as defined by money and mogul status. He rapped for the people, not the boardrooms. This placed him in stark contrast to Jay's tailored luxury persona. Kendrick wasn't just building a discography, he was building a resistance, and it sent a message to the throne. Kendrick's Damn was a creative and commercial success, winning him a Pulitzer Prize, a first for a rapper. While Jay-Z was dropping exclusive albums on Tidal and crafting billion-dollar deals, Kendrick was redefining the very definition of hip-hop prestige. The move sent shockwaves across the music industry. Jay-Z congratulated him publicly, but the undertone was clear. Kendrick was stepping into history books that even Jay hadn't touched. The tension remained unspoken, but it was impossible to ignore. Live performances have been a battleground in hip-hop legacy. Kendrick's Grammy performances were revolutionary, politically charged, artistically daring, unforgettable. Jay-Z, always polished and poised, approached performances like board meetings. But Kendrick's fire on stage made a statement. His art was rebellion, not just entertainment. When fans started comparing Kendrick's live energy to Jay's classic showmanship, it signaled a generational shift. Kendrick wasn't just walking in Hov's footsteps, he was carving new roads. On tracks like What It Feels Like with Nipsey Hussle, Jay-Z made subtle lyrical choices that critics interpreted as light jabs at younger MCs taking themselves too seriously. Without naming names, many felt Kendrick was among the targets. Jay has always taken pride in his longevity and approachability in corporate spaces. So, when Kendrick leaned heavily into black activism and radical themes, Jay's critiques seemed like warnings. Don't burn the bridges I built. Jay was making it clear, staying on top requires more than passion. Behind the scenes, there were rumors that Roc Nation once floated a management offer to Kendrick, one he allegedly declined. Insiders say Kendrick felt the terms weren't in his favor and didn't match his artistic autonomy. The rejection wasn't loud, but it was firm. That snub echoed through the industry, signaling that Kendrick would never play second to a mogul's empire. For Jay, who prided himself on recognizing greatness early, it was a quiet hit to the ego. Music critics love comparing legacies, and nothing stings like comparison. Jay-Z's Blueprint era represented dominance, wealth, and cultural authority. Kendrick's To Pimp a Butterfly challenged that blueprint, promoting vulnerability, community, and systemic criticism. When outlets began placing Butterfly above Jay's classics in greatest albums lists, fans on both sides clashed. Kendrick was rewriting what greatness looked like. Jay wasn't losing, but for the first time, his definition of iconic was being revised. Kendrick rarely speaks on Jay-Z, and that's not accidental. He's spoken about Eminem, Tupac, even Kanye. But when it comes to Jay, there's a silence that speaks louder than words. Insiders say Kendrick intentionally avoids engaging with Jay in interviews to keep the mystique alive, or maybe to avoid the politics. He respects Hov, but doesn't want to become a pawn in the legacy war. For Kendrick, silence is strategy. When Kendrick released Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, it was an emotional purge, therapy on wax, but beneath the vulnerability were bars that felt like warnings. His lyrics about generational trauma, fake kings, and untrustworthy leaders had fans connecting dots to hip-hop royalty. Many believed Kendrick was pushing back on the idolization of moguls who had long benefited from the system they once opposed. The unspoken shot across the throne's bow didn't go unnoticed. In 2023, Kendrick dropped a surprise freestyle during a pop-up performance in Compton. While it wasn't officially released, fan footage captured lines about fathers of the game becoming followers. It sent the internet into a frenzy. Was Kendrick firing again? Some believed it was a spiritual sequel to Control. No names, but the energy? Director. The fans ate it up. And Jay stayed silent again. Jay-Z has long positioned himself as the GOAT, and much of hip-hop agreed. But when Kendrick began getting the same label, tension subtly crept in. Jay had carved out his throne carefully, and Kendrick's ascension wasn't part of the blueprint. At public events, Jay began emphasizing his business acumen more than his bars, a pivot some saw as a way to sidestep the new lyrical king's shadow. When titles are on the line, silence is strategy. In his famed Rap Radar interview, Jay-Z talked about hip-hop's direction and upcoming artists. Notably, Kendrick's name was barely mentioned. Some said it was out of respect, others felt it was dismissal. The lack of acknowledgement felt pointed, especially as Jay name-dropped other rising stars. It felt like Jay was drawing a line. Kendrick was no longer upcoming, he was now competition. And sometimes, the most powerful move is omission. Kendrick once rapped, "I'm the closest thing to Jay." But in later years, his tone changed. He evolved from revering Jay to positioning himself against that archetype. On The Heart Part 5, Kendrick dissected fame, fake leaders, and public perception, all pillars of Jay's empire. Kendrick wasn't dethroning Jay, he was redefining what a throne looked like. He'd learned from Jay and chosen a different path. Fans waited for a Kendrick x Jay-Z performance at the Grammys for years. And in 2021, when both were present, anticipation peaked. But nothing happened. No handshake, no photo, no shout-out. Fans were left speculating, was this tension, scheduling, or intentional silence? Their absence together was as loud as any bar either had dropped. It seemed both men wanted to preserve their individual mystique rather than co-sign one another publicly. When Kendrick teamed up with Baby Keem for Family Ties, he made it known. "I'm not a trending topic, I'm a prophet." Some fans believed he was distinguishing himself from rappers chasing status, a group many believe includes Jay-Z. The track had Kendrick calling out the overnighters and industry chameleons, once again choosing legacy over optics. Was he alluding to mogul rappers with shallow bars? That's how some fans read it. Despite all the indirect shots, Jay-Z hasn't responded to Kendrick, not with a bar, interview, or post. For a man who once bodied Nas with Takeover, this is uncharacteristic, but that's Jay's current power. He no longer punches down. Or maybe he's just biding time, watching Kendrick fight a legacy battle from the shadows. Jay knows how to let silence stir the pot. Even in their differences, Kendrick has adopted elements of Jay's blueprint, especially when it comes to ownership and control. His PG Lang platform echoes Jay's early days with Rockefeller and Roc Nation. Kendrick's control over his career mirrors what Jay fought for decades ago. Their styles differ, but the foundation is familiar. Kendrick is building a legacy, just not in Jay's image. One source who worked the 2018 BET Awards claimed Kendrick and Jay were briefly in the same VIP area and didn't speak. While Beyoncé exchanged pleasantries, Jay allegedly kept his distance. No photos, no interactions. It was a moment that fueled theories. Were they avoiding unnecessary headlines, or was it quiet tension boiling over? In hip-hop, silence can be warfare. Kendrick's performance at the 2018 Grammys opened the show with a firestorm of imagery and lyricism. While Jay-Z sat in the front row, Kendrick's bars about fake leaders and revolution hit hard. It felt like Kendrick wasn't just performing, he was reclaiming hip-hop's soul from corporate hands. Jay applauded, but the energy between them? Cold. The performance drew a line in the sand. By 2024, fans had accepted that a Jay-Z versus Kendrick Lamar collaboration might never happen. But the real question was why. Both claimed respect for each other, but their actions told another story. One built an empire, the other a revolution. And in their differences, a Cold War quietly raged on. Hip-hop thrives on competition, and as Kendrick continues to rise and Jay stays entrenched in billionaire status, both men carry crowns, but for different kingdoms. Jay-Z represents the institutionalized power of rap. Kendrick represents its conscious rebellion. And while fans want a face-off, the real war is in ideology. Fans still dream of a Kendrick x Jay-Z collaboration, or even a lyrical battle. But maybe that's not the point. Their tension reflects two eras, two ideologies, two visions of hip-hop greatness. Whether they ever share a stage or studio, the friction between them fuels the culture. And that unspoken rivalry, it's what keeps hip-hop alive.
They never dropped diss tracks, never stood on the same stage throwing bars at each other. But behind closed doors, in interviews, and in subtle moves, Jay-Z and 50 Cent were always playing chess. One moved in silence, the other made headlines. And for over 2 decades, they danced around each other, each knowing exactly where the other stood. This is the quietest, pettiest, richest beef in hip-hop, and it never really ended. Before 50 Cent was a household name, Jay-Z was already a living legend. In the late 90s, he was carving out a throne with Valorant 2 Inches and Hard Knock Life. He wasn't just spitting bars, he was building an empire with Rockefeller. Everyone in the game looked up to him or tried to stand beside him. But Jay wasn't interested in sharing the top spot. He kept his circle tight and his moves tighter. And when 50 started rising in the underground, Jay noticed, but didn't flinch. He had seen Hungry Wolves before. A young 50 Cent drops How to Rob, a track roasting nearly every rapper alive. It was meant to be funny, bold, disrespectful, and it worked. He mocked everyone from Big Pun to Diddy. But it was Jay-Z's reaction that made headlines. At Summer Jam, Jay fired back, "I'm about $1. What the fuck is 50 Cent?" That line echoed through every barbershop in New York. And for 50, that was validation. He was no longer invisible. Jay-Z had just acknowledged him, even if only with one line. The war had officially begun. Jay-Z wasn't interested in a rap beef with someone still on the come-up. He dealt with Nas, DMX, and real lyrical threats. So instead of wasting bars, he focused on ownership. He dropped The Dynasty, expanded Rockaware, and bought into the Nets. Every time someone threw a shot, he built another building. He was mastering the art of business over bars. Still, he was watching 50. He saw the momentum growing, but he wasn't going to help feed it with more free promotion. In Jay's world, silence was the ultimate response. 50 Cent didn't slow down. He went full throttle. Get Rich or Die Trying dropped in 2003 and shattered everything. street anthems, chart domination, a cosign from Eminem and Dre. He had become what Jay-Z had once feared, an unstoppable force with nothing to lose. But even with all his wins, he couldn't stop mentioning Jay. In interviews, on mixtapes, through sneaky lines, he kept baiting the mogul, trying to pull him down into a headline war. But Jay never bit. And for 50, that silence became even louder. Jay-Z had mastered the industry. While 50 was beefing with Ja Rule, Fat Joe, and everyone else, Jay was stacking wins quietly. He took over as president of Def Jam, signed Rihanna, built Roc Nation. He didn't need to diss to dominate. His wealth did the talking. But behind the scenes, insiders say Jay never liked how 50 moved. Too loud, too wild. But he respected the hustle. And he knew, keeping your name out of drama kept your brand clean. 50 Cent didn't do subliminals. He did interviews. Whenever a mic was in front of him, he found a way to mention Jay-Z. Sometimes he praised him. Other times he called him boring, not for the streets, or too polished. But the strategy was clear. Stay in the conversation. Keep Jay's name next to his. It wasn't always beef. It was business. And 50 had learned something from Jay after all. Control the narrative, even if it's with controversy. Jay-Z had his own way of responding. He made you irrelevant without even mentioning your name. While 50 was building his G-Unit empire, Jay launched Roc Nation Sports, signed J. Cole, and bought into Tidal. He kept outgrowing the music industry entirely. He became a cultural figure, not just a rapper. And the higher he rose, the quieter he got. There were no sneak disses, no bar-for-bar drama, just legacy stacking. And for those watching closely, that silence, it was shade. When 50 sold Vitamin Water for over $100 million, he finally had something to flex beyond mixtape sales.